Plaquemines Parish Council as sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District is called to order at 1:05. The machine is open for roll call. Let the record reflect that all council members are present and accounted for. If we'll all rise and follow Mr. Lapine with the prayer.
We take this moment to acknowledge Almighty God and thank Him for our bountiful blessings, especially for this parish natural resource. We give thanks to God for our brave and courageous men and women in our military, who daily risk their lives to protect our precious freedom, and we pray for world leaders to know how to obtain world peace. We also pray that this government body, comprised of both council and administration, will always serve our parish with honesty, humility, and equality to all. And as this government body gathers here today, we pray for the wisdom to know right from wrong and the courage to do that which is right. Amen.
Amen. We'll all follow Mr. Marinovich with the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. We'll move to item 2 on the agenda, executive session. There is no executive session. Item 3, status report by Executive Director.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Sandy Sanders. I'm the Executive Director of Port Plaquemines, and what follows is my Executive Director report. It's in 3 broad categories. The first is our continuing initiative in our branding effort. This past week, we looked at the port logo and tried to unbusy it. As you see, our logo is presently. Right now, we have 6 colors that make up the logo, and we're trying to bring that down to maybe 2 or 3. And Port Plaquemines is a mouthful in itself, so we're trying to put that so it'll be a household word. We are also trying to move ourselves into the 21st century, as we feel that as we get very, very busy, that we're going to have a staff that can keep up with what we anticipate being a lot more work to do at the port. Hence, we have a self-imposed dictum that by 2014 we're going to be paperless. So we coordinated with our bank, which is Regions Bank, told them our intent, and they are reporting to us. We're also going to be talking to other banks as far as going paperless, going to electronic reporting and paperless billing. So they welcome it, and they look forward to the competition. We also met with some maritime billing systems. Right now, we are still billing on paper, and I've looked at some of the bills, and we don't get paid sometimes for 5, 6, 7 months. And the remittance on many occasions is what the customer is telling us that they did. So we certainly have to tighten that up. So we're going to go into a electronic billing system, and once again, we'll have this online. Drop dead time will be at the end of 2014. Our next area that I'd like to discuss are the preliminary steps we are taking as we creep towards the starting line of potentially purchasing some property for the port. This past week, we did a trip to Washington, D.C., where we met our congressional delegation, both Senators Vitter and Landrieu and their staff, and Congressman Richmond and Scalia. We also met with members of Department of Transportation and the Maritime Administration. And it was quite refreshing to hear that not only agencies, but even our congressional folks on both sides of the fence, both sides of the political fence, are stout-heartedly behind our efforts. We thank them for what they've done as far as getting the river down to 50 feet. All of our congressional staffs have had a hand in that, which would greatly assist not only our port, but all 5 of the Big River Coalition ports from Baton Rouge on down in the commerce of not only South Louisiana, but quite frankly, when you touch 33 states, it could float a lot of boats. So that is a major initiative that we discussed. We also talked about our port with the Marriott administration. They are going to be the go-to administration that will be tasked with doling out funds, so to speak, for port infrastructure. Purchasing the property would be one thing, but putting the infrastructure on that property is going to be a very gargantuan task. And they like the fact that we are a greenfield, so they can start and see the results of their efforts from get-go. So we have our marching instructions to meet with our state DOT and our regional planning commission. And once we meet with them, we're going to have a subsequent trip up to Washington, D.C. to get that initiative rolling as far as how our port and the federal government can work side by side in dressing up this property that we have with the much-needed infrastructure to move it into a world-class port. Also met with the pilot associations. I think that's very important to ensure that we talk with them. We shared with them what we're going to do with this property and, quite frankly, got their input on the realm of the possible. All the pilots, all 3 organizations that we dealt with, the Crescent City, the bar pilots, and the federal pilots, we met with their presidents and their staffs. They are excited about our efforts. And their input was taken into account, also put back to our Trident. And Trident is putting that back into our planning and what we're going to look like. And so we will have a base ops to take that to MARAD. But it was very positive, and they are extremely excited about our efforts. We've been also entertaining potential partners and operators for this proposed property, terminal operators, stevedore door companies, etc., and asking, they are excited. We're asking for proposals, and we had some individuals that come in and talk to us about what they feel that we could make this port look like. And so with those proposals, again, they will be forwarded up to Trident, and we'll cherry pick the best parts of it to make this port the best of many, probably different proposals, ensuring that those that were remitted are properly compensated for their efforts. Lastly, I coordinated a meeting with our Sheriff, Lonnie Greco, referencing the integrating our port security with the parish security umbrella. I told him, I said, the first time I met him, I did not want it to be when we actually had an accident or any type of terrorist activity or what have you. So he was very open to that, how we can integrate and leverage the assets of the port along with the assets of the Sheriff's Department to ensure that it is a most efficient and effective port security program. This concludes my report. Subject to your questions, I'll stand by.
Sandy, one of the meetings with MARAD, I think was, you've explained that quite well, but it needs to be emphasized that this could be the agency that will rush things along for us. And our efforts to open up that dialogue, I think, are going to take us a long way.
Amen to that. I can give from just my own experience with different ports, going through permitting processes, environmental processes, and it always just seems that you think you're at the goal line and they keep moving it. And the federal government finally has realized that they have put a bunch of hoops in front of a port that's trying to comply with the regulations, but you don't know what you don't know. So they have wrapped themselves in the mantle of actually assisting a port to go through from A to Z the process that you have to do of not only getting the permitting, but also getting the best deal on the infrastructure that you possibly could get. So it is a really good initiative by our federal government.
And I think that everyone also needs to be aware that MARAD is focusing on the dilapidating infrastructure nationwide. And they felt that if they could start from scratch and build something up to date from day one, that it was a much wiser investment than having to continually upgrade infrastructure that over the years will need repair. But they were more enthusiastic, I felt, about having an open area where you start from scratch, that it could pretty much be their model of how to do
Exactly.
things.
Anyone else?
You mentioned that we did a trip to D.C., and I'm asking who's we, who all went?
We had the chairman, myself. We also had Sean Duffy, who is the executive director of the Big River Coalition, which is the coalition that comprised of the 5 deep water ports on the river: Baton Rouge, Southeast Louisiana, New Orleans, St. Bernard, and Plaquemines. We had the executive director of PABI. We also
And
had
who is that by name? Because positions we don't know. Who was that?
Bobby Thomas.
Okay. I'm ready.
Yeah, Bob Bach, who represents the rail. And it was very key to have Bob Bach there because a lot of our congressional delegation was familiar with our rail initiatives, particularly for the safety going around Belle Chase and Gretna, but also how that rail could be brought down to our property and assist us with our port. So that was very key, and I've often stated that a port is only as good as its onward transportation, moving that cargo from the port to its final destination. And to be a world-class port, you're going to have world-class rail. And so going over the initiatives that they had, and they're no stranger to the federal government, and going there, they had applied for some Tiger grants. So they were familiar with their program. They asked about their updates, but it was really good to have a strategic stakeholder partner right there with us.
And who is Bob Bach with?
Bob
You said he
Bach is
represented
with,
rail, but who is he with?
Yeah, he's with Rio Grande Pacific, and they're the short line that's already in place, and they would be extending their rail down to the property on our port.
And last question, you mentioned that the federal government realized that they have set up a bunch of hoops. Did they state what is that they've changed, or what that? I mean, you made that
When I say they
statement.
set up a bunch of hoops, you just have a lot of independent agencies that you have to deal with, and you think you're finished, and they said, oh, you have a couple more steps, and so you think you're finished with those, and then you're introduced to another set. So this is a one-stop shop agency that will take, let's use us as an example, someone who's just going to crack open a new port and takes you by the hand on this is how you get your permits. And not only do they show you how to do it, but they also will intercede on your behalf. So it is a really good initiative by our federal government to take that on. Thank you. Any other questions?
Anyone else? Mr. Henry?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Sanders. Mr. Sanders?
A duet?
Yes. Listen, you mentioned about the Port Authority of purchasing some property today. What I want to know for the public information, this is going to be the first major purchase for the port, right?
Yes, sir.
For the public, this is a major project here. I want to know if there's been any kind of projected, once everything is, the dust has been settled, everything is done, has there been any kind of projected revenue from this project?
That's a very good question. Your name, sir?
Arthur Henry.
Thank you, Mr. Henry. We are in the midst of putting some pro formas together. As I stated, we are creeping up to the starting line, so we could not get too far out ahead of what we were doing. But we are talking to terminal operators. We're talking to stevedoring companies, and we will be talking to steamship companies. And once we have the land, then you have a real conversation on your hand. But at this point, you can be talking in what ifs and maybes. But I believe these type of companies have done this many times, so they smell success. And so it won't happen overnight. But I fully agree with what you're saying and your concern. I've talked to a number of private citizens, and they say, I'm all for your initiative, but do you have a plan? And we do have a plan, and we're going to unveil it as soon as we can, but I think that's a very good question. Mr. Henry?
The reason why I ask this question, I've been dealing with this port for a long time also, and the deal is, look, at the end of the day, how much money have we made for the people of Plaquemines? Not for a few people to sit in their offices and say, okay, this is what we did. The people of Plaquemines need to make some money off this deal, man. That's my point. The people need to make some money.
I think you're singing to the choir about everyone sitting in here. And I think that is a very great concern. And I hope everyone in here has that same concern. You ought to. And if you don't, then you really ought to rethink it. But what we're working on today, I believe, is what's going to keep your grandchildren here, finding a job here versus going off to school someplace and having to go to a Dallas or a Houston to find something that is meaningful and has good benefits and something they can build a house on and raise a family. And yes, sir, that's the backbone of our community. This port's not the backbone of our community. It's the folks that live here. And so my method of madness is to build infrastructure, 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 infrastructure. And then there'll be enough companies that come here to hang Christmas tree lights on that. And that's how jobs are started. So I appreciate your concern, and come often and keep me on track. Thanks. Anyone else?
Yeah, Mr. Lawrence.
Warren Lawrence, 120 Timber Canal Lane, Myrtle Grove. I had the opportunity to sit down for a cup of coffee with Mr. Sanders and discuss our concerns on the new port and everything, and I think you've hired a great person to lead us forward. I do have a lot of concerns on the infrastructure. I explained it to him, and that extending the rail, buying the property first, and say, we'll buy it and we'll build it and they shall come. That means the rail going around Belle Chase. There is no plan in place. There's no money in place to actually do this. What the congestion would be done in Belle Chase throughout Gretna, throughout Jefferson Parish, with this rail being extended. And then he explained to me about the container cargo site that would be placed at this new land purchased. I questioned him how much truck traffic would that place on the existing highways and the congestion we have currently on highways in Belle Chase trying to get out the parish, get in the parish. And I think we're going about it where we should stop, take a good look. I've asked him about why are we purchasing land if we have the land available at the LSU site that was given to the parish by the state. I mean, you're going to purchase land. He couldn't give me an answer on purchasing $13 million of land. What was the cost going to be to convert that land to a container port? How much would the infrastructure be costing? Where would that money be coming from? The $13 million is a cheap price for the land. Just like if I purchase a land to build a house, the buildings always cost more than the purchase of the land. Where are we going to get? Are we going to just come up with another millage to develop the property? How does that move forward? You know, he says he has a plan, and you got to trust him that he has the plan. But I think if we don't step back and look at this and say, what is the full plan? I even questioned him on how much land you were getting at this site that you want to purchase. And does that have anything to do with the new airport that's placed there? It seems like that's a lot of land for a container area. And, you know, I question that we've heard at the council meetings that they've had talk about an airport being put at that site around the Hermitage area. Is this land being purchased and going to be part of that airport construction? There's many questions, and while Claude was saying, I asked Mr. Sanders, I think what should be done, he should meet the people of Parish. He should ride the Parish. I offered him to come to my house. I offered him to go to Ironton. I said, come see what's existing. Come talk to the people. He did give me the privilege of talking to him. But I think there should be an open and fair meeting. I was floored by the situation, and I understand you can just pass a millage without going to voters, but I guess that's legally what the port can do. And if that can be done, I don't know when the millage can be renewed without public input. Does it expire in 3 to 5 years? What is in writing, and how do the homeowners and business owners have any protection if you have this right to just put millage on? I have a ton of other things, but I won't go any further.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. And next time we go get some coffee, you're going to buy. Now, I welcome folks like Mr. Lawrence and anyone else that wants to give me a call to talk about this, because this is your port. And these jobs are going to be for your kids and your grandkids. So, you know, to simply say that we're going to raise money and I have a plan, I wouldn't sit in your chair and say, well, okay, well, if you got a plan, that's good enough for me. The plans are maturing, as you can well imagine. We are entertaining quite a few folks. As I stated, some port operators, stevedoring companies, steamship companies. We had one that was in my office this morning, which almost made me late for today. Great ideas. They see the land. They see the opportunity. I'm not at liberty to divulge their name now, but can you imagine a guy like me telling you good folks in here, this is the way we need to go, and then once we get it, and now all eyes are on me. So believe me, I'm going to be that duck that's paddling pretty hard underneath the water. But yes, we do have schematics right now that we have asked for Trident, that we are looking at some intermediate opportunities until we do plus out the property, that being midstreaming and barge fleeting. That was one of the schematics that we shared with our port pilot association to make sure that it passed their smell test. We can design a lot of things, but if you can't do it, then what good is that for you? So they gave us their input, and the input was very positive. So if I were king for a day, I'd have it built right now, but I'm not. Rome wasn't built in a day, but I tell you, we got the 50-meter target is getting the property, and then from there we will expand. But again, I welcome your concern. I welcome your questions, and I won't shy away from anything. And if I don't have the answer, I'll tell you.
One other comment I have, I got Mr. Sanders' card yesterday, and just some clarification. I read on the business card that the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, an agency of the state of Louisiana for the development and operation of the Harbor District. I don't quite is it a parish ownership? No, it belongs to the state. No?
We are a state agency created by the legislature back in 1955.
Okay.
The governing authority of that agency is, at that time was police jury, then it became commission council, and now it's the parish council as the governing authority. but it is an agency of the state, not a political subdivision of the
Okay.
parish. That's correct.
Okay, because the
Yeah.
state doesn't contribute to this at all. Okay.
They can contribute by giving us assistance.
Well,
And
right.
we're absolutely working on that, because when you look at the structure of how to get things done, the disconnect that we've had for years between Plaquemines Parish and the federal government is not having the state on board. Those things are changing now, finally.
I understand it now, thank you.
Anyone else?
Barry Colligan, 31975 Highway 23 in Narren. Mr. Sanders spoke several times of the Trident report. I was wondering, Mr. Gouy, if it's still off limits to speak about it.
Well, what was off limits was distribution to the public. And I noticed you got a copy of it, and you were able to pinpoint certain issues in there and make an issue out of them. What we have later today is we're going to be just talking about the specifics of creating a purchase arrangement and the specifics of how to pay for the property should it become available for us. We used some of the conclusions in that Trident report to direct us on getting the proper information so that all the questions can be answered should we have an opportunity to buy this property, that we make sure all those answers, all those questions have been answered before we sign any dotted lines. So you're privy to that report, and you can read it and pretty much come up to with your own conclusions on that.
Thank you. In regards to that report, they stated the Ram Terminal, NOLA, and AMAX. They did not talk about the recent purchase in February by the LaCroix Group and Mr. White for 3,900 acres for $12 million. It is all on citrus lands. That translates to $3,077 an acre, not $10,000, $15,000, $18,000. My concern is, and I will say this, I'm not against business and industry in this parish. I am concerned about what this parish government is willing to pay for certain pieces of land. For example, Joe Brown property, Mr. Nungesser's campaign headquarters that is now demolished too. And now we're gonna have this, if it is bought for this exorbitant amount of money, on our backs. This council seemed to be very liberal with our money. The Ram Group, NOLA Terminal, and AMAX have their own private investors, and if they are willing to pay that price for what they bought, that's fine and good with me. It doesn't concern me, because it doesn't come out of my paycheck or my taxes. I'm concerned about what's fixing to happen here today. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Colligan,
wanna-
what were those numbers again? 39, was it the acreage and the cost?
3,900 acres for $12 million.
And what does it come out to?
$3,096.73 an acre.
I just wanted the opportunity to come here and tell this to the people of this parish.
And Mr. Colligan, we are very aware of all of those transactions, and we are acting in the manner that we feel is the most diligent to secure the property. We have two decisions, or two ways we can go. We cannot pursue the property and continue on like we're going, or we can look to pursue the best property at the best price we can get it and move this port forward. Personally, I choose the latter, and I'm very aware of what was paid. As a governmental body who is going to ask this council to begin a bond process, we can only pay appraised value or less. And the other part of that equation is the landowner or the seller has to say yes. We don't have any yeses from anyone yet. But to start the or to not start the process, I think is a disservice to the public and a disservice to Plaquemines Parish. So we are starting the process.
I agree
We
with that.
don't have all the answers. We're doing the best with the available information we have, using the best resources we have to make the right decision. And everything that you said, believe me, we have all had those concerns, and we have looked at those numbers, and they do knock you back. But we're gonna proceed and see if we can get the council to approve us going to Citrus Land and making an effort to purchase that property. And parallel to that, make an effort to get the bond commission approval and to secure this property while General Sanders and everyone is working to get the business plan together. It's a very delicate situation, more complex than I ever imagined. So I just want to assure you that nothing is being done in a fly-by-night nature. We're using the best information we have available and using the best resources we have available to make the best decisions.
Has this property been appraised?
Yes, it has. And
Did they take into account all the comparables? Not just,
all I can tell you is this. Are you an appraiser?
no, sir.
I'm not an appraiser. We paid to have an appraisal done by a professional appraisal company. That appraisal came in this morning at 9.5. That's the number we have to shoot for. Now, when we get into item A and B of the agenda, we will explain more, and that may open up the floor to more questions. But we have a process that we'll follow so that the public is fully informed of the direction we're headed and why we're taking that direction. So when we get to those items of the agenda, that may answer some of your questions.
Well, comparables are usually based by any reputable appraisal on apples to apples, acorns to acorns. And I would think that the purchase by the LaCroix Group would suggest they've set a price point per acre. And the other comparables that may have been used, like AMAX, they already have infrastructure in place, levees, railroads, buildings, for $11.5 million, I think what they bought it for.
I understand.
Thank you.
Anyone else? We'd like to move to item 4, bids and advertisements. We have none. Item 5, introduction of ordinances and resolutions. We'll start with District 1. For introduction, an ordinance amending the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District 2013 operating budget expenditures and revenues for needed upgrades to the Port Vessel Authority 3 and to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to fund, we're not doing this one? Oh, yeah. An ordinance to fund the classified position of comptroller for the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to have the position advertised, interviews held, all pursuant to Civil Service Commission rules and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution authorizing and directing the Executive Director, Mr. Maynard J. Sanders, to submit the names of Maynard J. Sanders and Mr. John Pennison to the Governor's Office boards and commissions for appointment to the Louisiana Board of International Commerce and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. And, Mr. Turner? Ms. Cooper? We'll move to item 6. Since item 6A and 6B are actually joined, one dependent on the other, what I would like to do is to introduce and make certain changes that need to be made based on recent information, and then take up those items for discussion, first by the team that put together the proposal, and then, of course, opening the floor to the council members and then the audience. So with that, if you would move to item 6A, When item 6A was introduced, and then further evaluated, it was noticed that some of the numbers that were in the ordinance were not consistent with the numbers we were using to come up with this plan. So for those who have the substitute, before I offer and ask for a second, there's red outs and highlights on your copy. Wherever the amount of 10,500 is inserted, we need to change that to 9,500,000. Now, you'll notice that in the preamble where the red marks are. You'll notice in the third whereas, where there's the red marks, that'll be changed to 9.5. In section 1, changed to 9.5. Also, for changes, in the second whereas, it should read 3 mills instead of 5. In the second section, in section 2, top column of the second page, again, it should be changed to 3 mills rather than 5. And then if you go to section 3, you see some language that was inserted where it says, by the port, including the amount of any equity contribution to be made by the port if necessary. In that same section, we put a closing date for the millage of December 31st, 2019. And that will constitute the changes. No, we're going to change it to 9.5. Excuse me one second. Okay, I've been advised by our port attorney that in the preamble, we need to leave the number at 10.5. But in the text, we leave it at 9.5. What I'll be doing is introducing subsequent legislation to correct that. According to our attorney, in order to act today, we need to do that. But the text, everything in the text is 9.5. So with that, I would like to offer and ask for a second. Seconded by Mr. Hinckley. And then so that we can put 6B on the table for discussion, when you look at 6B, where it says on line 16, that number needs to be changed from 10,500,000 to 9,500,000. And then also, same page, on lines 37 and 38, make that change from 10.5 to 9.5. And with that, I'd like to offer this to put onto the table. Is there a seconded by Mr. Hinckley? As an overview, for everyone's information, where we are today is a accumulation of a process that started several years ago with the development of a master plan. With that master plan, of course, we had change in governance where the Port Commission was actually taken out from the umbrella of parish government. We changed the organizational structure and hired our executive director. In order to progress to become as we like to say, a world-class port, the acquisition of property became real. And as I said earlier, we had a choice. We could continue to do things as we've done them over the years and get the same results, or we could move forward with the efforts that were taking place because of the master plan and the process of implementation of specifics of that plan. So when the property downriver around mile 55-8 became available, that was commonly known as the Millennium Port Site by some, the final piece of the Citrus Lands property by some. It's a piece of property, approximately 550 acres, with 7,100 feet of riverfront, deep riverfront. No shallow areas, deep riverfront, which means ships can get very close into the property to do their business. So and we started looking at that, and initially, we researched finance options. We initially thought that the port could just bond out the money, and once we started that process, we were given the realization that the port bonding capability was inadequate. The amount of revenue, the revenue stream that the port presently receives only allowed us to do a $6 million bond. That $6 million bond would take away all of the port's bonding capacity. And after we put our surplus into the equation, we still didn't have enough to buy the property. So we looked at other avenues. We got with our bond attorney to run some numbers, look at finance options, and once we had something that we felt was palatable, although painful, because what came to the surface was the statute that allows port authorities to levy a millage without a vote of the people. That was something that we did not take lightly. But in order to do what has to be done to develop this port, that was our option. We could do nothing, or we could look to see if this was something that could be workable. The 5 mil property tax leverage would generate enough funds to pay this off in approximately 3 years. And that's very attractive because debt service would be lower and we could pay it off quicker. We looked at the 3 mil, and given the port finances and the information that was given us through our bond people, we were shown that the port could pay this off in 4 years, less of a burden to the public, and that any and all additional costs could be burdened by the port rather than putting it on the public. We went through that process, and we arranged for a meeting with the Plaquemines Association of Business and Industry. We needed feedback. We needed some expertise. And we got with their finance people and were given a wealth of information on how to proceed and what would be the most prudent way to proceed. And we took those finance options, and that's what we're looking at today. The other members of that team, although not everyone is here, but I would like, and I think General Sanders has given pretty much an overview, but I'll ask if he has anything to add. I would like Mr. Rathburn to go through the legal language for us, how the statute was written, what the port is allowed to do, and also the language of the two ordinances, because as I said, they do go hand in hand, and the language is as to the directives that we're proposing for the executive director, and the language of the resolution starting the bonding process. We also have Jim Ryan, who will be handling the bonding for us, to explain some of the numbers and how the system works. And then Executive Director of the Plaquemines Association of Business and Industry, who played a huge role in helping develop this, will have a few comments. And I just want to say this, when we looked at the millage and we looked at where the bulk of the payout comes from, it's really from the business community. Even though this will truly be a port of the people, since the people will have an opportunity to make that investment, we felt that the business community would play an integral role of giving us a thumbs up, a thumbs down. So we'll have Mr. Thomas maybe give a few comments on that. And then, as I said, we'll open up the council members in the audience, and I'll close, and then we'll take a vote separately on item A and item B. So with that, General Sanders, do you have any other comments to make in regards to these two particular pieces of legislation that are on the table?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I believe all the folks up there at the head table know what I'm going to say, so I'd really like to direct this to our good folks here in the audience. But I was one of 13 folks that had applied to take the position that I was fortunate enough to be selected for. And talking to Dr. Gui and a couple other guys that hired me, they said it's interesting that we interviewed 6 of them, and every single guy said, first thing you got to do is buy a property. The first thing you got to do is buy a property. If you're going to implement your strategic plan, if you're going to take this port out of what I call rinky-dink and take it to world class, you got to start buying property. And that was the first thing I said myself. And I called this initiative I call it the Trinity. Because not only do you have to buy property, but if you get that piece of property, you're going to have to protect it. So the corollary to buying property is you're going to have to bring that levee system down. And then the last part of that Trinity is, what good is a port if you don't have any onward movement of that cargo? You have to put in a good highway system, and you have to put in a good rail system. You can have a very poor dock with third and fourth hand cranes, but if they can unload that ship and they can put it on a first class rail system, you got yourself a hot port. So that is the Trinity. You got to get the land. Let me give some good news on the levee. Our levee, to bring it down all the way, I just found out yesterday, was signed off by General Peabody. So that's one leg of that Trinity. And the last one right now is, as I stated in my earlier comments, in going up to D.C., I had the rail guy, we're connected at the hip, because I do understand, even though I might be the port guy, I'm going to live and die on how good he is. And believe me, they have plans that we submitted, that we're looking for funding, but it is going to be a first-class, highly efficient rail system that will bypass most of the congestion, right? And it'll get that cargo to where it's got to go on an expedited basis. So that is very good. I talked to you about us looking at our permits, and to start with the permits, you got to start with the pilots, and the pilots have blessed off on it. They liked the idea. Matter of fact, they gave us some good points. They thought we were being somewhat conservative. So they are on board with what we're doing. But let me share with you just a little bit about my vision on this port. It is not my idea to take this port from nothing to mediocre. My vision is to take this port to a world-class port, the largest on the Gulf Coast. Now, I know somebody might be snickering there because you might say, well, you're going to say this is going to be bigger than Houston because Houston's the granddaddy, right? Interesting fact about Houston, 80% of what they import is consumed in a 100-mile radius. And 80% of what they export is manufactured in a 100-mile radius. Houston is their own consumption area. This port is the gateway to 33 states in the United States of America. Our consumption area is huge, and it is going to take a world-class port to fully service that. And I will not be satisfied until this port can reach its full potential. So that is my vision for this port.
Thank you, gentlemen. Another member of the team that provided our legal input was Ken Rathburn, and I think it's important, Ken, that everyone understands the path we've taken and the proposals that we've put forth and why, and if you could comment on that.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dr. Gu. The statutes that created the port have within them and everybody's already heard it before, an ability for the port, with the approval of the council as the governing authority of the port, to assess ad valorem taxes of 5 mills, up to 5 mills. The port is also empowered to purchase immovable property, but it does have to get an appraisal for any property that's valued over just a few $1,000s. Therefore, the port did seek and got approval from the council there was a preliminary appraisal done at 9.5 million, and we were waiting for the final formal appraisal, which has just come in literally within the last 24 hours, of 9.5 million, confirming the preliminary appraisal. That is the maximum amount the port, as an agency of the state, could pay for that property. Whatever the appraised value, that's the maximum amount that the port is restricted in paying. The port could have chosen 5 mills. Dr. Gui alluded to that. It chose to instead make it a 3 mill, or a proposal of a 3 mill. The port also, the bonding issuance could have gone on, literally the term of that could have gone on for literally decades. I believe it's a maximum of 40 years or something like that, either 30 or 40 years. The port once more has restricted it, chosen to, as far as the proposal being made, to restrict itself to a maximum of 5 years, and based on the consultation by the port team with its bonding group, they have determined that with the 9.5, they will be able to, and again, Dr. Gui alluded to this, and using some port revenues to help pay off the bond, they are going to restrict themselves and get this thing paid off in, I think, just over 4 years, or right at 4 years, but under 5. The ordinance, forgive me, the statute requires that the bonding authority for the state take a look at this as part of the whole bonding issuance. And that's something that I call them the bond team, but it's a group of consultants that are very familiar with this. Jim Ryan and the rest of that group provide for that process. Once we have, now I'm going to turn to the 2 ordinances. We have one up for consideration of the bond issuance, and the other one is to allow the executive director of the port, General Sanders, to go and negotiate up to the appraised value. Initially, because we didn't have the formal appraisal, initially it was up to the appraised value, the lower of the appraised value, or 10.5 million. And that was in the event that the appraisal came back, let's say at 11.5, the port didn't want to come before the council and have the council, or seek to have the council approve an 11.5 million purchase price. And so it set the ceiling initially at 10.5. Now that the appraisal has come back at 9.5, Dr. Gui has made changes to the proposal, and this would allow General Sanders to go and negotiate, because we don't have anything back from the potential seller, to go up and negotiate up to the allowable amount, which is the 9.5. At that time, if in fact there is some sort of agreement reached, it still has to come back to the council for example, the millage issue. That is not being addressed today, and that would be a condition to the actual purchase of the property. So that will have to come back to the council in the event that General Sanders is successful in negotiating the purchase at the price that we are, the council is considering allowing him to agree up to. That will, you know, it's a timing issue, and as Dr. Gui has mentioned, it's kind of a very critical path type of thing. There's steps that have to be taken, particularly when you're dealing with a private seller dealing with a public entity. And so we're trying to set those steps that absolutely we need to get started on, because the bonding process, for example, takes a while. It doesn't happen overnight. It can take up to 3 or 4 months. I think we're being aggressive in trying to have the bonding team get this all the I's dotted and the T's crossed by taking it up to the bonding group in that 90-day period. And that's what these two ordinances allow for. One is to get the team, the bonding team, started on that process, and the second one is to give General Sanders the ability to, within the confines of what's in the ordinance, meaning the 9.5 million, to negotiate a price with the seller. And that's it.
Thank you, Ken. And then if we could, Mr. Jim Ryan, if you could come to the podium, please, sir, and Marcus too. We have been, for several months, going back and forth with several scenarios, trying to come up with the best scenario and the most financially feasible scenario for this port. And if you would, just give the public a little run-through of the process and our time frame and what we're shooting for should this get approved.
Rouge, Louisiana. You have asked us to look at a scenario to finance the acquisition of a port, a piece of land for the port, based upon a 3 mil property tax, and to pay that off in less than 5 years. And the resolution you have in front of you today will basically instructs us to go start that process, go to the State Bond Commission. I think the earliest we could apply to be on the Bond Commission would be their October agenda deadline. We've missed the September agenda deadline. That would put us at the November Bond Commission meeting. We would have to come back to you with a bond ordinance. We would have to come back to you with an ordinance to levy the tax. We would also have to explore the viability of the bonds with ratings and insurance, things like that. As your counsel said, it's a minimum, probably a 4-month process at least. And this doesn't obligate you to borrow money or to levy the tax. This is simply the step of, if we're going to pursue this and go down this road, would you start the paperwork process? As with any bond issue, if at any point in time, for example, if you cannot agree to a price with the seller, if we've gotten Bond Commission approval, if we've gotten all approvals in place, you're not obligated to borrow the money and you don't owe anybody any fees. Thank you, Dr. Gui.
Yeah, that's good. If anyone on the council has any questions, if you know the specific person to which that question is being asked, you just call them up, whether it be Mr. Ryan, General Sanders, Mr. Rathburn, myself, whomever. So I'll open the floor up to council members.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
you know, first I want to thank General Sanders for the hard work he's done in the past couple of months as he came up on board. And he proved to me that he's a leader and he's a man that's no shorter than his word. But you know, just to look at from my perspective, when I came on this council in 2011, and I used to talk to people about establishing the port in Plaquemines Parish, and the comments or the response was always, you would never have a port in Plaquemines Parish. So, you know, if we would just been fly-by-night people, we would have took that comment and let it lay it and let it rest. But you look at over 60 years that this port has only operated under name only. It had no present existence, it had no plan, it had no future. The revenue that was collected from this port went to the administration. Administration used that money as they saw fit. So what you had a port that only run up and down the river with a boat, 2 boats, and do security work on the ships. But then as I look at all the ships that go up and down this river, headed to New Orleans and other places, I look at all the revenue just passed through Plaquemines Parish. We the key, the gate to anything that's coming from third world country and going over to somebody else, and they're making all the money, making all the profit, they're providing all the jobs. I commend this council for what we did. We stepped out on faith, and we took this port from the parish government and created this port to what it should be. I think we hired the best man for the job when we hired General Sanders. As you said, we interviewed the men people, and all of them had one thing in mind when they gave us an expression: you have to own some land. You got to buy land. Now, personally speaking, I would love to have bought Amex. You know, but Amex property has some issues. They have earthly problems that probably will never be solved no time soon. So that more or less eliminated Amex from the process. But again, when this stuff came up about the millage, I was not in favor of no 5 millage, and I voiced my opinion about that. I said, now, if we do up to 3 millage, then I could support that. But you know, we're not going to satisfy everybody. We're not going to do what you want us to do every time you want us to do it. But I really believe in my heart that what we as this council have done here, I think in the next 5 to 10 years, all of you will be able to look back and say, you know what, they did the right thing. Because this port is going to create jobs for you, for the future of your children, your grandchildren, and it's going to create revenues to Plaquemines Parish. And if your property is within the vicinity of that port, your property value is going to go up. So this what we're doing here, I feel good about it. Is everybody happy about it right now? No, because you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel right now. But I think if you just hold on and be faithful for what we're doing and trust us and offer your opinion to what we have to do, I really believe this thing will go forward. And we can be the biggest port in the United States, way bigger than Houston, because we hired a man who worked for Houston Port. So he knew what Houston was all about.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Anyone else at the table? Anyone else at the table? I'll open comments from the audience. We welcome all comments. I would respectfully ask that we keep the comments directed toward the 2 items on the table, the authorizing General Sanders to negotiate, or any issues with the bonds or the issuance of the bond. We really welcome your comments, and the floor is open for the podium. Mr. Henry.
I see we have the assessor in the office. Could he come elaborate to the public what the millage would mean to the people?
Yeah,
Well, you don't
Bobby, I
have
know
that?
you gave us a chart. Sandy, do you have that chart? Or where we
You're
can
the
show it?
assessor.
Yeah. I know that it affects me in 2 ways, my home and my business. And it's assessed on the amount of the, wait, Arthur, let me finish, buddy. It's assessed on the value. So the higher the value, the more the millage. For a homeowner, it was $12.50 per 100,000.
If I
Now,
may.
the business was a little more.
Dr. Good, it's not higher value, the more millage. It's,
The
okay.
appraised, yeah,
Okay,
I don't know, the tax lawyer. So, but yeah, Mr. Gravelet's here. I don't know if he has those numbers on top of his head, but he's more than welcome to answer.
For the record, Robert Gravelet, assessor. Dr. Gouy had asked me to work up an effect on a 5 mil or 3 mil on various properties. And I guess one of the simplest ways to explain it is that our millage rate parish-wide is 62.53 mils. So that means for every $1,000 of assessed value, you would pay $62.53. If you add 3 mils for every $1,000 of assessed value, of course, you would pay $65.53. Now,
but you have to understand the assessment of property. A $100,000 piece of land is assessed at 10% of a fair market value. The assessment on that $100,000 at 10% would be a $10,000 assessment. So you would multiply that, that 10,000 by point, whenever you multiply assessment, millage, you move your decimal point 3 places because it's a thousandth of a dollar. 0.06553 opposed to 0.06253. And you would, so for every $1,000 of assessed value, you would go up $3 in taxes. I hope that explains it. Of course, you have, for homes, you have a homestead exemption that is applied, but for business property, the assessment is not 10% for the improvement, whereas residential property improvements are assessed at 10%. Business properties are assessed at 15% of fair market value. So I did examples for that and kind of showed it to where it could be done graphically and so forth, but I hope that gives you an idea.
Bobby, we have one, and this might help too. We have one of the scenarios was a 1.63 mil. So let's just say we'll double that. That may be good. Keith, you want to read those?
What this is here, this is on a 1.63, so if you double it, if you have a $500,000 home, your cost would be $69.27. So what would happen if we double it? That's $140 a year for a $500,000 home. $100,000. Well, we don't have any $100,000 homes in Plaquemines Parish, but say $200,000 home, the tax would be at $20.38, so it's $40 on an annual basis.
I just want the public to know, because you're picking a path of millage without the people voting on it. You understand what I'm saying? So they should know at least what they're going to be paying. That's all.
All right, but I mean, on a $400,000 home, it's $104 a year. $300,000 home, it's going to be like $75 a year. The burden truly is going to be on the commercial, the industrial. Like Dr. Gouy said, on our residences, on our homes, we have our homestead exemptions. The burden, I mean, it's going to be a burden on the people of the parish, but a real big burden because we don't get exemptions on our commercial properties. We pay full amount. Right. So.
And there's not last Gazette, but the one before, there was a chart. I think we took Assessor Gravelet's chart and put in there in the Gazette. But if not, come by the office. I've got it on file. Yeah. And one thing I think is appropriate. Bob Thomas is here. Bob represents the business community as their executive director, and I think it's important to hear what the business community has to say, sir.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen of the Port Council. My name is Robert L. Thomas. I'm the Executive Director of PABI, the Plaquemines Association of Business and Industry. Today I'm representing our chairman, Chad Breland, who was called away on a family emergency. But I'm here on behalf of the Board of Directors of the Plaquemines Association of Business and Industry, PABI, as everyone knows it by. First, I'd like to say congratulations to the Port Council. What a tremendous day this is in Plaquemines Parish. Finally doing something. And Councilman Griffin, I think you were off on your math. Dr. Gouy, you said the port was started in 55. I was started in 55. I think you said 60 years old. I'm fighting 60 as long as possible. So let's stick it to 58, please. Thank you very much. But congratulations to the council for considering this today. What a wonderful day it is to finally be addressing this. I've heard forever, we have no port, and we had no port. We had no property. When are we going to do something about the port in Plaquemines Parish? What a hidden treasure we have here with 75 miles of riverfront going through our parish. Sure, we see the ships out here. Look at the money that's floating by, up and down the river every day. I think it's a tremendous opportunity for our parish. Dr. Goui's right. Assessor Gravelet is very correct. that it is business that's going to take the bulk of this hit. Dr. Gui approached PABI about a month ago, asked if we would gather some of our financial wizards, if it were, some of our financial gurus, people with financial expertise, government expertise. So we gathered 3 or 4 of our board members and non-board members who have experience in finance and government. We met with Dr. Gui and General Sanders. They mentioned to us what their proposal was. We suggested some creative financial plans to them, some financial ideas of how we could accomplish this without impacting anyone. Unfortunately, that can't be done. The port does not have the luxury of a revenue stream like the parish does. We're relatively new by port standards, 6 months old, if you will. So that is an issue. Our people with financial expertise met with Dr. Gui, met with General Sanders, a couple of other folks, made some suggestions. Some were accepted, some weren't. We did our best to try to make some proposals that could be palatable to the public and sensible to business at the same time. The last couple of days, or after the last council meeting, when the ordinance was proposed, I went back to my board, suggested to them that PABI take a stand on this. They did not take that task lightly. This is a very, very serious issue, especially to business, again, because business is going to be facing the biggest brunt of this. The PABI board, the Business and Industry Board, feels like it's imperative to have this port go forward. At the same time that it'll benefit all citizens of Plaquemines Parish, it will benefit business especially. So we're looking very forward to tremendous years ahead, great success to this port, and again, congratulations to the council for considering this. Dr. Gui, our board of directors just this morning adopted a resolution. Would you care for me to read it now or at a later time?
Now would be good.
Okay. On a motion of Chad Breland, second by Rita McClellan, the following resolution was offered and accepted by the Plaquemines Association of Business and Industry as directors on September 26, 2013. Dr. Gui, did you pass those out to the council members? Thank you. A resolution in support of the adoption of an ordinance authorizing the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District to acquire a certain piece of land which is owned by CLL Limited Partnership Limited. Whereas there has been a strategic shift in the mission of the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District beginning in 2013, when it was determined that the port would become a landlord-type operation in order to realize the full potential of a port, and whereas PABI recognizes the springboard to ignite the strategic shift towards evolving into a landlord port is the acquisition of land. And whereas the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District has ordered a formal appraisal of the subject property, whereas it is contemplated that the purchase price and the purchase agreement shall be for the lesser of $10 million, shall be for the lesser or the amount of $10,500,000 or the value contained in the pending formal appraisal that was just received this morning that Dr. Gui spoke of. And whereas to satisfy the debt of the purchase in approximately 4 years, be to impose a 3 mil property tax by the governing authority. Now therefore be it resolved that the Plaquemines Association of Business and Industry Board of Directors supports the adoption of an ordinance authorizing the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District to acquire a certain piece of land which is owned by CLL Limited Partnership Limited for a maximum purchase price of $10,500,000. And furthermore, the Plaquemines Association of Business and Industry Board of Directors supports imposing a 3 mil property tax by the governing authority to satisfy this debt for a term of approximately 4 years. It is signed by Chairman Chad Breland. Again, this was not something the Business Association took lightly. No one likes taxes, of course not. But we also realize what the potential could be here. So again, congratulations and good luck on your future endeavors with this port. We're looking forward to wonderful days. Thank you, Dr. Gui.
Thank you.
I want to congratulate Bob and the business community from PABI. Hey, you did a good job. I want to thank the director, the port director, and Dr. Gui. Hey, you did something that's very commendable. Hey, there's gonna be some problems on everything you do, but I think this was a deal that everybody was involved, you put it on the table. I commend you for that, and I really believe this is gonna be a great deal. I really think it's gonna be a great deal, and as a resident of this parish, I'm not fighting against this. I wanna participate in any way I could to make it work. It needs to work. It needs to work for the people. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Arthur Lee. Mr. Murnovich?
Yes, so Dr. Goy, we had some conversations a while back, and you had talked about the 1.63 mils. I was a little bit bullish on it and wanted to go as high as 5 mils. I'm a little pushy business-wise, but I can see where we would go with the 3 mils. Right now, while we have our esteemed assessor in the room, Mr. Gravelet, our tax base in the parish is somewhat in excess of $980 million at this point, correct?
Our tax base currently is over $1 billion.
It's over $1 billion?
Yeah, that's assessed value. That's the percentage of assessed value. And how that, to give you an idea of how that compares, we have 23,000 people in our parish. Jefferson Parish, for example, has some 460,000, which is 20 times our population. So you would naturally think that their tax base would have to be in the area of maybe 20 billion. But Jefferson has a 3.3 to 3.5 billion tax base compared to our $1 billion tax base. Now, that is important because it affords us to have the lowest millage rate in the entire region, one of the lowest millage rates in the entire state. That, along with our low property tax, attracts companies to put branches of their business here to make purchases. It attracts companies to locate high-valued movable property here at the first of the year for tax purposes. That's why it's very important. We constantly are aware of that, and we want to maintain or even lower our rates whenever possible, because once it no longer becomes advantageous to locate property here, then we will become like everybody else. When you lose value, the only way you can offset it is to raise your
That's what I'm
rates.
kind of leading into here.
Yeah.
Would you feel that once if this gets approved today and this project is successful, would you figure it might, I mean, we know we're going to drop the millage at a certain time, but do you also feel there's a possibility we could even lower the millage later on at a later date if this port is successful?
Yeah, when it's run by an outside operator, then all those assets will become taxable, you know, and it will definitely add to the tax base, you know.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate it. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, my only comment is that this tax, if everything sounds good, if it's this easy, then we shouldn't have a problem getting the support of the people. It should go before the vote of the people to move forward. Just because we can move forward without their support, I don't think that's what we should do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Lawrence.
Warren Lawrence, Myrtle Grove. Just one comment I have, and I hope we learn from this, is that I think it's great that the port is where it's going. I support it 100%. The only thing I'm saying is, when you say you talk to all the clients for the port, you create an ambassadors club, you ask PABI for comments, and you leave out John Q. Public. You leave out, I don't have a problem with this being assessed on me. There's going to be some people that it's going to be a make or break deal. I know Mr. Hinckley said there's no houses less than $100,000 in this parish. I think there is. And I think the people that own these houses, whether it's $50, $10, it may be the difference to them.
Mr. Lawrence, let me say something. I think Mr. Hinckley probably was wrong, but he's in a different part of the parish from me. But let's also say he did make mention of the fact that our homestead exemption is what now, Mr. Gravelet?
Yeah, I agree. If it's a $75,000, there's a lot of people that own a trailer that don't own it on their own land. And they're going to end up paying for this. They're going to end up, it's going to be passed on to them. There's no question it's got to pass down. Just all I'm saying is, I think whenever we're proposing things like that, we have to get some publicity out, whether it's the Gazette, because God knows you can't put it on television. Half the people in the parish can't get the cable, so it's no sense in putting it there. And I say you hear nothing about it till 2 weeks, a month before it's coming before this council. I think that's, I hope we learn from it, and we learn to get some input.
Mr. Lawrence, I'd just like to comment to the fact that we are trying to do this, and all our attempts in doing this in the past have failed. We've worked very diligently. Dr. Guillen and the members of the Port Committee and all the members of the council have worked diligently on this, along with Mr. Sanders and all. And the intent, the ultimate intent of this in the end is to possibly lower millage, raise our tax base, and to bring benefits and jobs to everybody in the parish. And that's what we're trying to do. This is not some little money-making scheme or something to rob Peter to pay Paul, but to increase our tax base and to benefit the citizens in the next 5, 10, 20, and 30 years.
And I'm just passing that on. That, you know, John Q. Public is not stupid. Give them the opportunity to look at what you've done. Let them look at the plan that you plan to proceed with. Don't rush to judgment. We need the land. My question before was, does the LSU property, does it belong to the parish?
Yes, sir, it does.
It does. Was it considered to give them free land to do this and don't have to buy the land?
Wait,
One other question I have.
wait, on the land.
Other piece of
On
land.
the land. Can anyone?
It's 120
Mr.
acres.
Leo,
It's 120 acres, 60
tell-
acres on one side of the street, and 60 on the
Tell
other.
me, the agricultural station property, what is the status of that today? Is it obligated to the state for a fisheries project? Is it not obligated? Is it still owned by the parish? Do you know?
Right. We can't hear you.
The LSU, hello? The LSU property is currently owned by the parish, but it's being obligated with regards to the fishery program and they actually came by yesterday to finalize their walkthrough with the state and federal people to approve the fishery program. So we're going to be entering into an agreement with them to do that.
It's nice that the public knows about that. You know, I mean, it's very nice. But, you know, I know at one time before this council, it was talked about that piece of land being given to the sheriff's office. So I don't know what happened on that deal, where the fisheries come in the first time I'm hearing it. The other thing is the property located at F. Edward Hebert property. Is any property available there that could be utilized by the port? If there's a container cargo necessary, if you put it there, it's close to dump the cargo on Orleans and let them run to the interstate from there. I just add, let the public know and put their input in it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence.
Mr. Chairman, got a follow-up question, what Mr. Lawrence was talking about.
Yeah.
Mr. Palazzo, you said that the LSU property is, it's pending, it's under litigation, say that again, because that didn't sound right, and I want to know what you said.
No, not any litigation at all.
Repeat what you said, I missed it.
What I said is that the state has come to us because they want to do, what they're doing is, and they've received these huge grants throughout the country and throughout the state, actually. And we were bidding with them, with other areas of the state, to get some of these fisheries, different types of fisheries for speckled trout, redfish, and things of that nature. And we were actually, my appreciation was, we were actually up to be the #1 pick. And for whatever happened, they switched a big chunk of that money to another part of the state. I believe it was either Lake Charles or Shreveport. But we continued to talk to them, and they came down and they checked out the LSU facility again. And that's the reason that they knew about it, because it was we had rented it out as an LSU facility for them in the past. And so the wildlife and fishery came back down with an idea for a hatchery. They want to do a hatchery to help support our seafood industry down here.
And so they came back and they did their studies and so forth. And yesterday, they actually came back with the federal, some of their federal people to take a look at it, and I'm waiting on a report from them regarding that.
Well,
So,
Mr. Palazzo,
can you,
okay.
can you maybe get with him on that? Because we really would want to keep it focused on the two items on the agenda. Mr. Lawrence, you satisfied with that? Yeah.
I'd like to respond to him because it was
Go
brought
ahead.
up as to why we're not using the LSU property.
Go ahead.
And with Mr. Palazzo stating that, and Ms. Cooper wrote it down, I just read it, that this property has been obligated to the fisheries. I'd like to know by what authority did the administration do that, make that obligation of parish lands without it coming before this council?
Can we come back under item 6, I mean, District 6 update?
Can he answer that question? Just let him answer that question.
Would you please get with Mr. Turner and if we can somehow bring that forward to the public through the Gazette or whatever for everyone's benefit? I think it's a legitimate question, but true, I respectfully ask that we stick to the items on the agenda. It has to do with authorizing Sandy to do the purchase agreement and the bond, to pass the bond issue. If we could, please, I'd appreciate that. Any other comments? Anyone? We'll move and on item 6A. I offered, Mr. Hinckley seconded. The machine is open. Mr. Marinovich?
I think Mr. Turner took my batteries.
Yeah,
Did you take it from last week?
all the votes are up and already locked in, so Mr. Marinovich, if you could give us a verbal.
A, yes.
And the resolution is approved, 8 to 1 with a no vote from District 6. We'll now move to item 6B. 6B is the ordinance regarding the negotiating and entering into a purchase agreement. The machine is open. I offered it and Mr. Hinckley seconded. Mr. Marinovich?
Yes.
The vote is approved, 8 to 1 with a no vote from District 6. We move to item 7, new business. I know of none. Item 8, approval of the minutes, September 26, 2013. I'll offer for approval. Seconded by Mr. Burris. Machine is open.
Yes.
And you do your verbal.
Yes. You too, Anthony?
Mr. Turner,
And I'm saying yes.
is it working, sir? Yeah. And the minutes are approved, 9 to nothing. I ask for a motion. Motion to adjourn by Mr. Griffin, seconded by Mr. Hinckley. The machine is open.
Yes again.
And we have adjournment at whatever time that is. Can't see, it's a glare. What time? 2:35, a vote of 6 to 0. 5, 8, and 9 not voting.
Done? We'll call our regular scheduled council meeting to order. We'll start off with a roll call. Looks like everybody's here but me. See, all 9 councilmen are present. What I'm going to do is recess the council meeting at this time and go straight into our board of review to try to clear some of the people out here that's been sitting here for quite some time, including some attorneys. We get some of this cleared up, clear the room somewhat. Do we need to read these off just like this? Yes. Okay. The board of review is going to start off with Hillcore Energy Company, C004380, number 2, C004475, number 3, C015310, C015335, I'm sorry, C015335, C018425, C022150, C601011, number 8, C602593, C603911, C609381, C614562, C614989, C614990, C615823, C623661, C625056. Finis Energy Services Company, number 17 is 6621417. Dune Operating is number 18, CO21600. Century Exploration of New Orleans, 19, 20, and 21 is 600510, C617123, C617695. Number 22 is Harvest Marks Pipeline Incorporated, C626130. McGowan Working Partners, number 23 is C602859. Number 24 is Stone Energy Corporation, C618524. 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, and 33 is Texas Petroleum Investment, C003350, C004300, C014625, C015900, C019600, C021700, C614488, C615821, C619992, 34 and 35 goes into Bobco LP, C002400, C002500. 36, 37, and 38, 39 is Clayton Williams Energy Incorporated, C624550, C625601, C61805048, C625600. Number 40 is Cox Operating, C004350. Lowball Operating is numbers 41 through 55. Those numbers are C004320, C004340, C014785, C619991, C016710, C019100, C613799, C613800, C614042, C617693, C614485, C614568, C614403, C617116, C618134. Manatee Resources, number 56, C619994. Milagro Exploration LLC is number 57, C005550. S2 Energy Operating LLC is number 58, 59, and 60. C005825, C618400, C623264. The last one is going to be Sundown Energy. It's not listed on the agenda. That way there's a slight mistake here, but Sundown Energy is number 61. That number is C007,000. And that'll be all of them. Okay, and at this time, we're going to open up for discussion. We'll ask our esteemed assessor to come, Mr. Gravely, if you'd approach, please, sir.
Again, for the record, let me start by saying I'm the assessor, Assessor Robert Gravely for Plaquemines Parish. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, administration, members of the council. Also representing our assessor's office today are Administrative Assistant Deputy Assessor Mrs. Belinda Hazel, and Personal Property Supervisor, Deputy Assessor, Mrs. Moran Cormier Simonson. To present our supporting legal evidence and give an update regarding ongoing cases is Mr. George Peavage from the firm of Peavage, Huff, Trifley, and Dunbar. At issue today are 61 assessment appeals from 17 different oil and gas production companies. There are a total of 108 oil and gas production and pipeline companies listed on our parish tax roll, with a grand total of 212 oil and gas assessments. As per Louisiana law, our tax roll or books were open for public review and inspection for a period of 15 days. Our exposure period began August 19th and ended September 3rd. Taxpayers were properly notified if an assessment increased by 15% or more, or if omitted property was assessed as per statutory guidelines. It has been my approach as assessor to implement an aggressive but fair audit, survey, assessment discovery program whenever necessary to ensure that all taxpayers pay their fair share. This approach has benefited every taxpayer. To refresh your memory, after meeting with our taxing bodies and business leaders to discuss our initial oil and gas audit survey results, my approach as the assessor was not to file suit. I gave the companies that were in violation an opportunity to come in and get it right. Most companies appreciated the approach, but unfortunately, a few companies chose to go in another direction. As a result of the actions of the assessor's office, we have brought all companies up to the same level with regard to reporting and accuracy of asset records. We were able to increase our tax base and at the same time reduce our tax rate, as done by you, the Parish Council, in 2009, benefiting all taxpayers. It is not the intent of our assessor's office to overtax or burden taxpayers within a category of property. The system works best when everyone pays their fair share. If differential treatment is given, it amounts to a de facto exemption. The tax burden is in turn shifts, causing millage rates to be increased without a vote of the people. Something no administration, tax commission, governor, assessor, or taxpayer favors. As responsible taxing body custodians, we should never lose sight of our responsibility and fiduciary duty. Whenever it is reasonably possible, we need to allow our tax rates to roll back or be reduced when tax base growth through reassessment permits. Our current low tax rates and sales tax advantages put Plaquemines in an envious position compared to all other parishes. Plaquemines is and has been attractive to business and homeowners because of our fair share approach, which provides a low tax rate for everyone. After the presentation of our evidence by our legal representative, Mr. Pivach, and comments from the audience, we then ask that you support our assessment valuation determinations for the 2013 Plaquemines Parish tax roll, allowing us to defend our assessments, if necessary, at the next level before the State Tax Commission. With that, I'd like our attorney to come up, Mr. Pivach.
Members of the council, George Pivach. The assessor's office has made significant progress since last year's board of review, having received a successful ruling from the Louisiana Supreme Court regarding the assessment of omitted property, and we've been able to resolve all but 3 of the lawsuits dealing with assessments for the years 2006 to 2008. We're working with taxpayers to resolve the remaining dispute regarding the depreciation of surface equipment and anticipate setting that issue before the Tax Commission in the coming months. This is the main issue in dispute for the 2013 assessments before you today, and those appeals that are pending before the Tax Commission for the years 2009 to 2012. As for this year, Assessor Graveley maintains the same position he has taken regarding the years 2009, 2010, 2011, and 2012 assessments. This year's assessments were prepared in the same fashion using updated information. We ask that the Board of Review again affirm Assessor Graveley's assessments of the various companies that have appealed today. Lastly, in regards to the presentation of the evidence, it's the assessor's position that if a taxpayer has timely and properly followed the procedure for filing an appeal with the Board of Review in accordance with Louisiana revised statutes and the Louisiana Tax Commission rules and regulations, and the taxpayer chooses to waive its opportunity to be heard orally at the Board of Review hearing, this waiver will not prejudice the taxpayer's right to appeal the Board of Review decision to the Louisiana Tax Commission or to present evidence to the Louisiana Tax Commission. In connection with this presentation, we'd like to offer, file, and introduce the evidence as it relates to this year's 2013 Board of Review evidence. Thank you. Anyone have any questions about the status of the litigation?
Thank you, Mr. Pivach.
Good afternoon. I'll be very brief. My name is Cheryl Cornick. I've represented a number of taxpayers. I'm here today for Hill Corp. Pursuant to Mr. Pivach's statements, we are not going to present evidence to the commission. He is correct that we have been working very hard to narrow things down. There's one remaining primary issue that has to do with depreciation, and it has to do with an interpretation of Louisiana Tax Commission rules. And that's just something that the Louisiana Tax Commission is going to have to resolve for us. So I just wanted to make an appearance before the commission. I'm available to answer any questions, but pursuant to Mr. Pivach's statement, we're not going to burden the Board of Review with an entire presentation of evidence and testimony, unless you have any questions.
Thank you, ma'am, and we appreciate that.
Good afternoon. My name is Ken Carricker with Affiliated Tax Consultants. I'm here on behalf of Century Exploration, Harvest Marks Pipeline, McGowan Working Partners, Stone Energy Corporation, and Texas Petroleum Investment Company. Basically, my comments would be the same as Cheryl's. We're here just to if there's any questions that come up, we also are not going to present testimony and evidence. I don't believe y'all have enough time left this week to hear. But I did want to at least have our appearance here. We also have been working with Mr. Gravelet's office to try to resolve all of our issues. It has been, a positive process, and we certainly believe it's going to continue to be that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Eric Gibson. I'm with Ken Andrews and Company, and here to represent the following clients: Bobco, LP, Clayton Williams Energy, Cox Operating, Lobo Operating, Manti Resources, Milagro Exploration, S2 Energy, and Sundown. I also am just going to mimic, we don't have anything to present today, but just to reserve the right to appeal to the LTC and proceed forward. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilman? Audience? Okay. I'm going to offer a resolution by the Plaquemines Parish Council, sitting as the Board of Review viewers, wherein the 2003 assessment as presented by the Plaquemines Parish Assessor is hereby upheld and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Oh, and I'm also going to say we're going to be taking items 1 through 61. I'll offer and ask for a second. Second by Mr. Griffin. Any comment or question about this?
Mr. Chairman, I have a comment. I just want to acknowledge Mr. Gravelet's comment during his words that by not addressing this, causing the millage, quote, causing the millage to increase without the vote of the people. And just want to reiterate that comment because that was my very issue, the legislation before, increasing the millage without going before the vote of the people. Just for the record, thank you, Mr. Gravelet.
Anyone else? Machine is open. Mr. Edgecombe, you be present and not voting, sir? And 8 to nothing. This passes. Thank you. Resolution passes. Okay, let's go to executive session first. Okay. No, we didn't take a vote on just convening the regular meeting, right? Okay. At this time, we'll convene our regular council meeting. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your time. Okay, at this time, I'll offer an executive session. We have Morris and Clyde, CCMSI, Workers' Compensation Claim, number 1D44C033883, Settlement Evaluation. Number 2, Port Eads Attorney-Client Discussions. Number 3, Resolution introduced regarding borrow pit moratorium, attorney-client discussions. Number 4 is CLL Limited Partnership Limited versus Plaquemines Parish Government, 25th JDC. I'll offer and ask for a second. Second, Ms. Lapine. No comment or question. Machine's open. Executive session. And we go to executive session in approximately 6 minutes to 3. We'll try to be brief, ladies and gentlemen. Come on, executive session at 6 minutes after 4. Taking no final and binding action. I don't believe we have any proclamations today, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. We have no parish president today. No updates. Is he married yet? I think he's supposed to be getting married today. The board review is done. We have no bids and advertisements, I don't believe. Do we have any beer and liquor license, Mr. Griffin?
Yeah, I got one.
You got, Doc, go you have one for us, son?
I have a alcoholic beverage license for Aaron Gelland, 23 Barbecue, 9661 Highway 23.
Thank you, sir. I have none. Ms. Lapine, you said you had none? Mr. Bieras? Mr. Edgecombe? Ms. Cooper, you have any alcohol license, ma'am? Burgo, do you have any alcohol license? Okay. I'm assuming Mr. Hinckley doesn't have any. If not, we can go back to that.
Okay.
Let's go to, oh, that's right. He offered a permit. I'm gonna second it. Any discussion? Hearing none, the machine is open. Not again. And the permit is granted 8-0. Let's move to item 5, introduction of ordinances and resolutions. You have none? Ms. Lapine? Dr. Gouy?
An ordinance authorizing and directing the permit department, with the consent of the parish attorney's office, to approve all oil, gas, and mineral permits not expressly delegated to the council pursuant to Article 4, Section 4.01A, 18 and 19, which only requires council approval for geophysical and geological surveys, exploration for minerals, and for the transportation of oil, gas, and other minerals within the parish, including all dredge and fill uses associated therewith, and all other associated uses, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. That's all.
Thank you, Dr. Gouy. We have several. A resolution authorizing and directing the law firm of Dwyer, Canberra, and Suffern, LLC, Plaquemines Parish Council Attorney, to file a mandamus against William H. Dungasser in his capacity as Plaquemines Parish President, to have permits presented to the Plaquemines Parish Council for approval prior to issuance of same, and to have the permits which have been issued by the permits office without council approval or authorization declared null and void. In order to amend the general fund 2013 operating expenditure budget, engineering department, various line items, and otherwise provide respect thereto. In order to amend the general fund 2013 operating expenditure budget, drainage department, various line items, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. In order to amend the road maintenance fund 2013 operating expenditure budget, public right-of-way maintenance department, various line items, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. In order to amend the general fund 2013 operating expenditure budget, flood control department, various line items, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. An ordinance by the Plaquemines Parish Council, as on behalf of the West Bank Levy District and the Buras Levy District, to appropriate perpetual flood protection easements, perpetual road access easements, perpetual drainage easements, perpetual waterline utility easements, temporary work area easements, and temporary work area easements within existing highway rights-of-way and certain portions of lands in Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, to construct the New Orleans Adventist West Bank Hurricane Protection Levy, NOV-05A, St. Jude to City Price Project in Plaquemines Parish. For Louisiana, for levee, drainage, flood, and hurricane protection purposes, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan for the acquisition of LERRDS-NOV Oakville to Venice project and otherwise to provide respect thereto. These are for Mr. Edgecombe. An ordinance to amend the Boat Harbors and Shipyards Fund 2013 operating expenditure budget, Empire Boat Harbor Department, various line items and otherwise to provide respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the Boat Harbors and Shipyards Fund 2013 operating expenditure budget, Empire Shipyard Department, various line items and otherwise to provide respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan for the Sewer Extension District 7 project and the General Fund 2013 operating expenditure budget, Community Action Agency General Department, line item, other programs, sewage rehabilitation, otherwise provide respect thereto. Let's bring him here. A resolution appointing blank as representative of the oyster industry in the Plaquemines Parish Coastal Zone Management Board, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Mr. Beers?
I have two, an ordinance to amend the capital improvements plan for the Extension Peters Road Bypass Project and otherwise to provide with respect thereto, and an ordinance appropriating the sum of $100,000 for the Plaquemines Parish government to complete an agency technical review with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for the Baptiste Colette Navigation Channel, Section 203 study, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. That's all I have.
Is that all, Mr. Beers? Ms. Smaller, do you have anything for us, ma'am?
An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan for the parish coastal restoration plan project and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Turner, do you have any, you have none right now? Okay, thank you, sir. Can we get one out of here? We're gonna move to items, what's the item number? I'm looking, y'all. Yeah, who do we put on here? 3 names. One name came from participation. That's Gil. Who picks the name? How do we do that?
I think what you do is offer to them, say, look, that's not gonna be that.
Here's the other one that's up for consideration. And if the first one doesn't pass, you can also, they can amend it, you can put competing.
You just name the name and go from there. Just name
Yeah,
one.
because otherwise, by default, the first name's gonna get it. And you don't, okay?
Okay.
Pass it around to everybody.
I'm trying, y'all. Let's move to item 6DD, which we're offering with changes, which I'll pass out. DD, double Ds. An ordinance to approve the amended pay plan and classification schedule adopted by the Civil Service Commission on August 20th, 2013, to create the new classifications of insurance specialists and otherwise provide respect thereto. The changes will be on line 28. We've scratched licensed enforcement agent on pay grade 16 to change it to insurance specialist on pay grade 31. The other change I'm noting is on line 40. The minimum salary was at $52,164. We're striking those numbers and adding in $53,164. And with that, I'll offer and ask for a second. Second by Dr. Gouy. Ms. Wanda, would you come up, ma'am? I think we've had some issues in the past with, I know in the previous administration, they argued that we had no insurance on buildings, and we took a big hit with that, obviously with Katrina. And we found ourselves pretty much in the same position again with some of the buildings, Edna LaFrance building being one of them, on the East Bank, and we're trying to avoid that from happening again, and we discussed this early in the week. Could you give us a little update on that?
What we're looking for is someone who has the experience and the credentials to handle property and casualty insurance for us. Because with disasters like Katrina and Isaac and everything in between, we have had so many requests to put the new buildings and pump stations and, parish structures on our property and casualty and flood insurance that it's just become a job in itself. And I don't have anybody on my staff that can do this full-time. We need somebody who can do it full-time, who can go out and perform valuations of the structures, come back in, work with the consultants and the FEMA people, Mr. Serpaz and people like that, to get the correct numbers, to get the correct amount of insurance on these places. And now we're even looking at claims from Isaac. And we have quite a few claims, pending, and it takes to where we have to coordinate with other departments and other agencies to make sure we get our money that we're entitled to, and that we coordinate with the FEMA, people and GOSEP and all those people to make sure that we're properly insured and that they come in and pay the correct amount after our insurance pays. And so it's just we just need somebody with that type of expertise and background. And eventually, what my intent and my goal is that eventually, if we get the right candidate, we now have consulting services who review our policies and help us secure, the correct limits of insurance and that kind of thing. So my hope is that we can eventually eliminate that contract and that work and let this person do that as well.
Okay, the obvious two questions are gonna come is, one, we haven't selected anybody, we're gonna go out, we're gonna advertise for the job position.
That's correct.
Okay, and let me ask you this, because this is an obvious question also. Do you really feel that we have a need for a full-time person doing this?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
And that person probably review the policies we have in place and maybe look for better prices on
Yes.
on what we, and premiums and that type of thing?
Right. They'll spearhead that, and like I said, go out and perform, hopefully, building, evaluations and inspections.
Maybe
and that
search for
kind of
better
stuff.
rates and that type of thing
yeah,
too?
yeah.
Okay. And make sure we don't have anything falling between the cracks like we did this last time?
Well, exactly.
Okay.
Because it takes, there's steps, to secure the insurance, and it's not a matter of one email or one phone call. You have to coordinate with different, like I said, departments and agencies, and sometimes we have to stay on the other people to get us the information that we need in a timely manner. So we really just need somebody who can just dog it like that every day, every day, every day.
I'm good. Do we have any questions? Hearing none, the machine's open. Don't worry about it. And it passes 7-0. Thank you, Ms. Wonder, for your time.
Thank you.
What'd you say? We're going to move to item 6U, a resolution requesting the Plaquemines Parish Civil Service Commission to select and hire a consultant to perform a compensation study and otherwise provide respect thereto. Dr. Gui, you offering?
I'll offer.
I'll second. Dr. Gui?
This week, last week, Mr. Paradellis sent a letter to everyone explaining the purpose behind this resolution, and if you would, Mr. Paradellis, and pick it up from there.
Yes, sir. First, my name is Bill Paradellis. I'm Civil Service Director for Plaquemines Parish. We've understand that, we've been having a lot of difficulty attracting qualified applicants and keeping some applicants on staff. We've had pretty good turnover this year. And it's been 6 years since we've had an actual study done by an outside consultant. And at the request, with the approval of the commission, I went out and got some quotes are some proposals from 3 different consulting firms, and we've selected, or tentatively selected, pending approval from the council on, to go forward with this study. And that's what this resolution is just to ask for your support to go forward with this study, because I don't want to have a problem later with some, like we did 5, 6 years ago with the council. So, I mean, I know that any study we will do, we will come back with an amended pay plan for y'all to look at, and with cost figures involved, and we can move forward from there. But I'd like the commission and I would like to have y'all's support to go forward at this point. And that's really what this resolution is all about.
Mr. Paradellis, it's my understanding that you have money in your budget
Yes, sir.
appropriated already, so we're not asking for an appropriation. And that, that you did look at 3 firms, and you had 3 quotes, and I'd like you to share that with the council members.
Yes, sir. The 3 companies that we got proposals from, one was Creative Compensation Solutions, which was a company that we worked with when I first came aboard back in '97. It was already selected, and they did the first actual compensation study for the parish. His bid or quote came in at $12.5. They're located in Metairie, Louisiana. Second company was Baynard Management Group out of Slidell. Their quote came in at $23,000. And the third company is a company out of Dallas, Texas, called the Waters Group. I've talked to them on several occasions in the past. I know Slidell is using them periodically for their studies, and but they came in way high at $44.5. So I kind of ruled them out because of their expense, and recommended to the commission be the 1 or 2, either Creative Compensation Solutions or the Baynard Group. And I think Creative Compensation Solutions, since I've worked with the gentleman there before, I feel comfortable with him. And he was the lowest proposal, which also leaves us money in case there is something else that comes up that needs to be addressed, that we'd still have money in the budget to do it without coming back to the council for additional funding.
And so that's going to be your preference, and the commission is agreeing with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And like I said, the commission is just wanting to, bring this to the council and ask for y'all's support to go forward. That's all we're asking for at this point.
Mr. Paradellis, I'm just going to say I'm opposed to it. We're going to carry on a vote. I'm just opposed to it. I think it's a waste of money. We had this Orchard study a while back, and I still see that we have a bunch of people that I've seen seem to be falling between the cracks, and I have a problem. I just have a problem with spending the money on this, but that's all I have to say.
Well, that Archer study, like I said, sir, was 6 years ago. If you look, what the cost of living is going up in the last 6 years, even though the council was generous enough last year to give us a little cost of living increase, we're still having extreme difficulties in attracting candidates for the positions.
But I'm also finding that, especially in your office, I'm noticing one person that worked 6 months and got a raise of 15.84% in less than 6 months. We have other people sitting here working almost 30 years and haven't seen nothing but a 3% raise. So I have an issue with that, and I prefer not to debate it and try to humiliate you or torture you over the issue, but that's just the way I feel about it. Anyone else have any questions, comments? Dr. Bowie? Ms. Cooper?
I just hope that it's not as confusing as the Archer study was, because we went back and forth for a long time on that one.
Yes, I know we did, and that's why I'm coming to y'all first, and saying, getting y'all, if y'all support it. If y'all don't support it, then I'll go back and tell the commission that y'all don't support compensation study for the employees to bring our wages up to be competitive with our surrounding area. But if y'all do support it, then, we will move forward. And I don't expect the study to be as extensive or as complicated as the Archer study was, because we still have some good issues left from the Archer study, like our job descriptions are pretty much in good shape. I will ask the new consultant to look at some particular positions, to talk with administration as to some of their areas of problems that we're having, problems where we're having keeping people, look at their salaries, look at their job descriptions, even to the point of saying maybe we need a different classification here and there. And one of the things I've always strived upon in the parish is to try to build jobs that people can move up in. And we've done this in the ferry department very well, where we've had people move from deckhand to captain and over a couple years. And we're looking at, we're hoping to do that with other departments and give people a chance for growth is what we need. And that's one of the things I want him to look at also. I think Mr. Lott here can attest to the problems we're having with just some of our operators that we're having trouble hiring.
Anyone else?
To me, this is Archer all over again. And I can bet, standing here right now, 6 months from now, the people at the top getting more money. Guys out there in their sun driving that tractor, you ain't getting nothing more. Man, we gotta stop this, man. There's just one legal way of saying we gotta make sure the people at the top get more than everybody at the bottom. Gotta make it a little bit more equal, man. This needs to be stopped. Stop it.
Thank you, Ms. Henry.
One of the points that I've asked the consultant to look at too, and things I've heard from the commission, from the council over the years, is to have the minimum wage up to $10 an hour, and to get his views on and recommendations on that, what the minimum wages should be, and possibly up to $10 an hour. And of course, we would be looking at cost, working with our finance department to develop scenarios and cost as to what it would cost to implement a new plan. I have no idea right now what the consultant will bring. He may look at ours and say that our pay is not far out of line, or he may specifically say that there's certain areas that need to be adjusted, and I'm sure there are. So that's why we want to do the study.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Audrey, you have something for us? I'm sorry.
Mr. Paradellis, when was the last study?
Last study was started in 2007 and was implemented in April of 2008. And that was the Archer study.
That was the Archer study. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Audrey, you have something for us?
Yes, sir. Mr. Marinovich, I'm a little confused on what's on the table. After the study is done, how is this going to be implemented? I can remember in recent months when a raise was brought up for the parish employees, it was denied because there was no funding. It was an absorbent amount of money that the council could not afford to do this. So what, did the council come into, did you win a lottery or something in recent months? Now all of a sudden we can afford it? So I mean, does it matter? Is it all depend on who put forth the legislation, whether or not we can do it or not? I'm just a little confused.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Dr. Gouy.
I don't think it has anything to do with who puts forth the legislation. I was asked to put this forward for a couple of reasons. Number one, the issue of the guy on the low end of the spectrum not getting up to $10. They may say yes, they may say no, I don't know. But to not address it, and have it come back to us to take a look, I think it's a disservice to the employees. So this is going to be a study that is not just a fly-by-night thing. It's apparently, and I think this is Mr. Kincaid that you're talking about, a very reputable guy as far as, no? Okay.
Mr. Kincaid was before my time. This
Okay.
was Mr. Vicknair.
Vicknair.
Wayne Vicknair.
So anyway, when it gets back to us, we can say yes or no.
But
And-
my question still stands, Mr. Gouy. Where would the funding come from?
With
That
this-
we didn't have, 6 months ago?
I don't have an answer for that. We're not appropriating we're not giving any raises. We're not appropriating any money. You know, I sat at this table and I listened
So are
for a
we gonna
long
do-
time about people making comments about the guy at the low end of the spectrum not getting any money and not
And I
getting a raise.
think that was a concern back then,
And it's still a
about 6 months
concern.
ago.
And I think that we should look at it. Now, if the council decides not to vote for it, that's fine with me. And if they decide to vote for it, that's fine with me too. But I can tell you one thing, that I can guarantee, that the salary structure overall will go up. Now, then we have to sit here and say, well, where we find the funding for it? Every time a study is done on employee salaries, it goes up, every time. So I'm not blind. I know that this is gonna come in and say that the salary structure is gonna go up.
So your position has, so what are you actually saying is?
I'm saying let's do the study and
Your position has
see.
changed from 6 months ago.
My
You- you-
position hasn't changed, Ms. Audrey.
Well, I'm still confused, Mr.
Well, you
Williams.
know, the one from before, if you want to get into specifics, what it was doing, it was taking unclassified employees and classified employees and said if one gets a raise, the other gets a raise automatically. And
year.
Each year. And the numbers that came back from finance were, I really don't remember, in the millions.
But still, and you're absolutely right, Mr. Goy, but
Yep.
still, it would have been appreciated back then if this legislation would have took effect, been brought in last time, but it wasn't.
That
There was no
legislation-
discussion on it. It was just a dead issue.
That
It was a new issue.
legislation had no background to it. It was just something that was put to the table that said, if we're gonna do it for this, we're gonna do it for that one. Here, we're taking a firm, which I think for a reasonable amount, Mr. Paradella, very reasonable,
Yes, sir.
to look at it and say, from a factual standpoint, this is where you stand. And we may say no, but at least we have a third party, independent, coming in and giving us some advice. I, for one, would relish a third party coming in who does this type of work for a living to tell us you either want wet, or you need to make some changes, or you don't need to make some changes. It gives us the facts we need to make an intelligent decision rather than an emotional decision. That's all that I feel. Well, I don't
Mr.
know. It didn't get made.
Mr. Attorney, you have something?
Oh, let me do a follow-up, because it was mentioned about the, almost as though it was arbitrary, just saying, let's give a raise to the unclassified, unfounded, let's give the raise to everybody. I think there's a discrimination issue when you are picking a particular class, so that was the basis of it, and I stated so. So it's not like you didn't know where I was coming from. If you're gonna give a raise to one, you give it to, and call it a cost of living raise. If you're gonna call it a cost of living raise, then the price for milk for you is the same as it is for the guy out there. You give it to everybody. As a government, cost of living should be across the board. Concerning the $10 minimum, to bring that up at this stage as though as the motivation for doing a study, back in 2007, I put legislation on the table seeking a $10 minimum wage into, now we are in 2013. If you don't have that answer today, that's a problem, because you already have approval. We had already given you approval to implement a $10 raise, to study it, to do whatever you needed to do. Plus, my understanding is, as a civil service director, you're required to do an annual review. And so you should be coming to us with this data. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Mr. Henry, you have something for us?
I just want to say, look, here we again discussing the lower end, and Mr. Turner right. He put up a $10 an hour, but then, no, they didn't want that. They wanted the Archer study. So then we had the Archer study. After the Archer study came out, $10 wasn't still there.
But I brought-
Fast forward that to the day.
But hang on, Mr. Henry, but I brought it up again, even after the study. So there's no excuse for us to not know where we stand and how to implement a $10 minimum wage. We just refused to do it. We didn't have the will to do it.
I'm hoping, at the end of the day, though, a $10 raise would be good. Well, a $10 starting off fee would be good for the people who starting off working for the parish. I mean, I hope it'll come, but not later. I hope it'll come a little sooner.
My last comment on that is we heard the same line when we were doing the Archer study. Mr. Nungesser stated we're going to take care of the people on the bottom first, and just the opposite was done. If you want to implement a $10 minimum wage, as long as you've been a director, you should be able to figure that out. You should be able to get that information and let us know what it would take. as long as you've been in that position. You should be able to make that happen. That's all I have, Mr.
Do we have the comment or question? Hearing none, the machine is open. And the legislation fails 4-4 with the no votes from District 8, District 7, District 6, and District 2.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Paradalis. Let's go and get this over with. Let's move to 4A1, Century Exploration New Orleans LLC, Breton Sound Area, Block 51, install power clusters and shell pad. Drill estate lease 19050, location number 4, install caisson, sleeve structure, and temporary breaker barge. I'm looking to take these in global. If there's any objections, please let me know. I'm going to move to 483, Castex Energy Incorporated, South Pass Block 42, drill estate lease 21047, install well protector platform. 4A4 on agenda, Alderman and Associates Incorporated, Balchase and Alliance area, drill 6 soil borings. It'll be 4A1, 4A3, and 4A4. I'll offer these in global and ask for a second. Second by Mr. Burris. Do you have any comment or question about these? Hearing none, the machine is open. And the permits are granted 8-0. We'll be deferring 4A2 today, pending some further information we're looking for. So, we go to 4B, a resolution approving the issuance of a special permit. Anthony, you agree with this one? A resolution approving the issuance of a special permit to Judy Daigle for the placement of a third residence trailer on property located in A2 Rural and Agricultural Zoning District at 12246 Highway 23, Balchase, all in accordance with application number 2013-4363 dated September 5th, 2013. Mr. Burris, your offering?
Yes, sir.
I'll second. Mr. Burris?
I just have a question for Mr. Metcalf. I didn't see any objections to it, Mike. There were none, were there? Thank you.
You haven't heard anything, Anthony, either? Did anybody have any question about this matter? 4B is open on a for vote. TV. And it's approved 8-0. Six A1, an ordinance authorizing the parish president to continue the implementation of the Plaquemines Parish Coastal Plan using funds from the Coastal Bonding Initiative and granting permission to create a Plaquemines Parish Government Marsh in lieu fee program to create marsh mitigation in Plaquemines Parish that will serve as a master document to offset wetlands impacts associated with the Reach A4 Oakville La Receipt, Reach A5 La Receipt to Myrtle Grove, Reach A6 Myrtle Grove to St. Jude, Vegetated Ridge, and marsh creation projects and other future projects. I will offer and ask for a second. Second by Mr. Burris. Oh, PJ's here today. The little bit. Back here. Thought you was in California. Anyway, correct me if I'm wrong. We had a meeting with Mr. Jay Prather yesterday.
Correct.
Ms. Marler was gracious enough to join me yesterday. We had some conversation with him yesterday, and what's going on right now, correct me if I'm wrong here, is with our projects that we have going on, for instance, levee building is a primary thing.
Correct.
Reach B2 being another. If it's not in open water, if it's affecting any type of wetlands, then we have to do mitigation work. We have to pay a mitigation bank. I think it's, the wetlands is something like $86,000 an acre or something.
Correct.
That money goes to Shreveport, that money goes to North Florida, that money goes to Orleans Parish.
That's right.
So what they're looking to do is, I think it's asking for $250,000 out of our bond program, correct?
Correct. And
All
I've
right.
got the total amount of what you would have left if you approved this today. The bottom line would be $3,076,623.
Okay. Now, what this would do is allow us to pay ourselves in lieu of paying someone else the money, and we could take the money. Now, we may be taking some liability as far as maintaining these projects, but it's projects we need to get done here in this parish anyway, am I correct?
That's correct. And we do have 2 locations of about 100 acres on both sides of the river. So you'd be doing twofold. You'd be putting money back into creating more wetlands or more marsh or bottomland hardwoods, whatever we needed to match in whatever projects we're going to do. As we go forward with the reaches that you guys just released us to do, we're going to try to not impact some of the wetlands, but unfortunately, you know, we will. And they're going to make us mitigate. And we can stand here and argue all day long. I think it's wrong, but that's the system as it is, and it's the only way we're going to get through it. So this is to our benefit to be able to take that money and rather, like Byron said, send it to Florida or North Louisiana or even in New Orleans, who has a bank, or Jefferson Parish. We could keep it right here in Plaquemines.
And there is some chance that the state may not approve this, is that correct? It's a possibility.
Slight,
A
yes.
slight chance? You think the odds are pretty great that they may pass this?
Yes,
and
sir.
they're willing to go along with this?
Absolutely, and
the
this is for the
indications you're seeing?
permitting, so if they don't, we're not going to go further on it.
I think this would be a win-win for us too, would you say so?
Correct. Oh, absolutely, no doubt about it.
And we could also expand the program further, because we've been
Correct.
talking about mitigation banks for years. Mr. Turner came down, Mr. Edgecombe with me, we had some discussions in the office, and this is something we could go forward with, and I would certainly ask everyone's support with it.
Thank you.
Do you have any comment or question about this from anyone?
Just, I have
Hold on 1 second.
a question for Mr. PJ.
Yes, sir.
Is this any different from what I put on the table last year? The one we asked for a mitigation bank last year?
It's a difference because it's not a mitigation bank, this is a fee in lieu of, right?
Correct.
It's a little bit
It's
different.
slightly different, and I can sit down with, after the meeting, I can go through and show you there is some slight differences. This would probably be a faster track.
PJ, if I understand, I think the big difference would be that normally we would have to put this money, let's say the track is worth $10 million, I'm gonna make up a number.
Right.
We would have to put that $10 million in a shoebox.
Into a bank.
This way, we don't put the $10 million in a
Right.
shoebox. We just have to be prepared to take that risk when something may be destroyed. That would be the difference between it.
And that's huge.
That's a big difference. We don't have to actually put the money in the bank.
Right.
Did I explain it properly?
You did perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, the machine is open. And we have a unanimous okay on this ordinance. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. PJ. Six A2, an ordinance authorizing William Nungesser, Parish President, on behalf of the Bureau Levy District, to accept and act a donation of 25,656 square feet of land from CLL Limited Partnership Limited, located in Myrtle Grove Marina Estates, Phase 1, for use by the Bureau's Levy District for levee, drainage, flood, and hurricane protection purposes, and otherwise provide respect thereto. I'm gonna offer and ask for a second. You second, Keith? Now, does somebody wanna explain to me what this is? Blair?
I don't, Blair Rittner, Plaquemines Parish Land. No, I don't have an explanation for this, I'm sorry.
I'm gonna stop you right now, deferred.
Nick? Good.
Stay where you at for a second. 6A3, an ordinance authorizing William Nungesser, Parish President, to accept an act of donation of a perpetual servitude over, under, and across 1.392 acres of land from Heroes Lands Company located in Section 9, Township 14 South, Range 25 East in Bellchase, Louisiana, otherwise provide respect thereto. I'm offering and ask for a second. Second by Dr. Gouy. Mr. Rittner?
I don't have anything.
Deferred. Don't run yet.
I know, this one's me.
An
This
ordinance by the
one's me.
Plaquemines Parish Council, as on behalf of the Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority Board of Louisiana, West Bank Levy District, Plaquemines Parish, and Plaquemines Parish Covenant, to appropriate perpetual flood protection, levee and flood wall easements, excuse me, y'all, and temporary work area easements in certain portions of lands in Plaquemines Parish to construct the West Bank and vicinity, Mississippi River levee, Mississippi River and tributaries, project, hurricane and storm damage risk reduction system, resilient features, Augusta to Oakville, WBV-MRL 1.28 baseline stations.
I know this one, I didn't know what y'all asked for.
wait a minute, let me do this real fast, okay. Don't run off though. 556 plus 90 to 611 plus 00, Plaquemines Parish project for Mississippi River levee, flood and hurricane protection purposes, and otherwise provide respect thereto. We're gonna offer this and with changes. Jesus Christ. Yes. Which one is it? I'm sorry, Mr. Redmond,
Okay,
please go ahead.
all right. This is part of the WBV, the West Banking vicinity. It's a river levee from basically, they chopped this project up into 6 pieces.
Stop.
I'm sorry.
Dr. Gruey's withdrawing his second. We need to point out the changes on here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm looking at line 32. We're changing 2.09 to 2.32. On line 33, we're changing 12.09 to 12.14. Second page, line 12, we're changing 2.09 to 2.32. Line 13, 12.09 to 12.14. Line 28, 2.09 to 2.32. Line 29, 12.09 to 12.14. Line 50, 2.09 to 2.32. Line 51 from 12.09 to 12.14. Everything else is the same? And the only other exhibit, I mean, the only thing we show is on the exhibit, y'all, I'm showing the map lines would be slightly different. I'm showing the additional acreage, correct? Okay, and with that, I'm going to offer. Dr. Gruey's gonna second. I'm sorry, Brad, please go ahead, sir.
All right. What's this WBV 1.2A is one project. It's basically a T-wall on top of the river levee. It's part of the 100-year flood protection in Belchase. It's one project that we have. The length of this project is about 5,400 linear feet. We have about 5,000 feet of T-wall. It's a concrete T-wall. It's going to be built to plus 24 and a half. Basically, the Corps, when they build a structure, they build it to the 2057 elevation. Right now, the levee's at 21. It's going to go to 24 and a half. There is some right-of-way that we have to have. As you know, the Corps is going to a 15-foot right-of-way, what do they call it, a vegetation-free zone. And we are getting probably an extra 9 feet. Right now, it's the toe plus 5 or 6. We're going toe plus 15. And we have 3 areas that's going to be a temporary work easement. And we are going to be getting a perpetual flood protection easement of about 2.32 acres. So this is going to be an appropriation where we mail the constituents a letter. We pay, it's going to be appraised, and they're going to be paid for that land that's being taken. And it's a right-of-way. We're not buying this land in fee. We're only getting a right-of-way. It's still the owner's properties. And it's just that they're not going to be able to build a structure in that 15-foot section. Any questions?
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Redner? Ms. Cooper?
Now say that again. We're
Where
gonna
do you want me to start?
We're gonna take their property and
Okay,
pay them for their property.
we're taking a servitude.
Right.
All right? Servitude is just like you have on your river levee where you live. Basically, you still own it. It's just that the parish gives that right-of-way to the Corps of Engineers, it's still your property. But we just, basically, you can't build a structure in that, you can't build a structure inside of that servitude.
Taking it right away, Ms.
A
Mullins.
a physical structure, that's what, so it's basically, it's a right-of-way.
It would still be considered my property.
That's exactly
But I'd
right.
have to get
Right.
that servitude.
Exactly.
Okay.
You would be limited to planting an oak tree or something of a structure that could cause a weakness in the levee. But outside of that, still your property.
You good, Ms. Cooper?
Say again?
Ms. Marler? Ms. Marler, you good? Mr. Turner?
Where's the exact area?
This is in Oakville. It's, you know where the 9A levee, the 100-year levee ties into the Mississippi River
Right.
levee? It goes from there upriver about 5,400 linear feet. 5,000 feet is going to be the T-wall, is the concrete T-wall. The rest is going to be earthen levee.
And so we're increasing the height to 24 feet? What is
20
it
24
currently
and a
at?
half, at 21. Right now, it's going to 24 and a half. And it's because it's a structure. The levee will be lower, but the structure, the concrete structure, the T-wall, it should be in your package. You should have a cross-section of it. What they'll do is degrade the levee to about 15 feet, put a 2-foot base slab, and then go up with a 2-foot wall up to 24 and a half. Very similar to what they're doing in St. Bernard. You know how they have the big 29-foot wall? Except this will be 24 and a half versus 29 and a half.
And what's the height of the levee on the east bank?
On the east bank, what section?
Right off of St. Bernard's wall that comes into
Our
the
levy
parish?
or their levy?
Their levy.
Their levy's 29 and a half.
29 going into what size levy?
Going into the river levy,
Our levy.
our levy is at 8 and a half, but it's going to 12 and a half. It's under construction right now.
Okay. And here's what stands out in my mind. We already have a levy that's 20, you said 21 feet?
20
feet?
This river
And-
levy?
Yes.
24 and a half, sorry.
No, but it's currently at?
At 21.
At 21.
Correct.
Right? And so, and that's going to be funneled more, further south from where the wall is, right? We're going to go up another 3 feet, bring it up to 24 and a half feet. When we've got a wall, a 29-foot wall, flowing water to the east bank into an 8-foot wall that we're going to upgrade to 12 feet. And I'm just looking at the money that we've taken to go from 21 feet to 24 and a half when we know we're not adequate on the east bank.
Right.
How do we get these projects? It's like our priorities are mixed up. We have a level of protection of 20 feet, 21 feet.
Correct.
And we're adding 3.5 feet when we have levees that are inadequate, and we're not touching it.
Well,
how does this project, and I'm not knocking the project, I am disappointed that we're doing this and not reaching out to an area that's more needy.
Right.
And how did this get justified?
Okay, it's part of the 100-year system. The Corps has to certify everything from St. Charles Parish to Plaquemines Parish, including Belchase, includes St. Bernard, includes Jefferson Parish, Orleans. They look at it as one system, and this is a piece of that system. They basically take in the river levee as it stands today is only an MR&T, Mississippi River and Tributary. It's designed to withstand a 100-year flood. What they're doing is putting a hurricane levee on top of a river levee. And it's part of the certification. We have to have it. I don't have anything to do with that.
Mr. Blair,
Yes, sir.
the river levee at the Breakway, say Breakway South,
Yes.
that levee is not 8.5 feet high.
29, no. The river levee is at about 19, and the Corps is getting ready to do a raise to like 21, where the wall ties in.
Right.
Yes, no, it's not.
Now, the 8.5 foot levee, that's a non-federal levee, so we're responsible for the construction of it.
That is correct.
So which means that we would not be eligible for any federal funds that they use in somewhere else, like on the West Bank, for instance.
Actually, I mean, that levee, it's 100% parish-funded levee.
Right.
That 18 miles, And right now, we're not receiving any federal funds. The only thing we're doing is trying to build it to a federal criteria if we can get it put into a
Into the
federal
federal
system.
system.
Right.
Blair, who sets these priorities? Not you.
No, this has been done, you're
This is from the
talking.
Corps, correct?
This is all core, right. It's
Whether
all-
we agree with them or not, this is the Corps' priorities.
That is correct.
Any other comments or questions?
Yes, sir. Mr. Ritten, would QIPRA allocate funds for a non-federal levy on the East Bank, or would those funds be eligible to be put on any non-federal levy in the parish?
Byron, I can't answer that. I don't know the.
And let me do a
their
follow-up to
guidelines.
Mr. Williams'
Yes.
question. Do we use QIPRA money for any other projects other than levees? Marsh creation?
I can't answer that.
Well,
I
like,
don't
is
know
PJ
their,
still
I
here?
don't know their criteria. I don't.
Mr. Arthur?
I just want to say thanks to Mr. Blair. Hey, gotta keep a level in belt sheets. I live in belt sheets, so hey, we need the protection there, keep it there. You gotta-
It's not me that's keeping it there. Any other questions?
Hearing none, machine's open. Any ordinance passes 9-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ritter, for your time. Okay. Mr. Plaza, you awake over there today now? Okay, good. We're gonna go back to 6A3, an ordinance authorizing William H. Billy Nungasser, Parish President, to accept an active donation for perpetual servitude over, under, and across 1.392 acres. Yes. Do we need to vote on that? Yes. Okay, I'm gonna read this. And who's gonna second it?
No, I don't know.
It's up for reconsideration. We've already placed it. Well, let me read this. An ordinance authorizing William H. Billy Nungasser, Parish President, to accept an active donation of perpetual servitude over, under, and across 1.392 acres of land from Hero Lands Company located in Section 9, Township 14 South, Range 25 East in Bellchase, Louisiana, and otherwise provide respect thereto. I'm offering to the council, this is not reconsideration, we would call this. You deferred it.
Right, bring it all.
We're gonna bring it back up again. And I'm asking for a second. Second by Dr. Gouy. This is to bring it back up again, ladies and gentlemen. This is not voting on the item itself. It's just to consider the item. Dr. Gouy. Mr. Turner? Okay, so we brought it back up. Make it legal, an ordinance authorizing William Nungasser, Parish President, to accept an active donation for perpetual servitude over, under, and across 1.392 acres of land from Hero Lands Company located in Section 9, Township 14 South, Range 25 East in Bellchase, Louisiana, otherwise provide respect thereto. I'm offering and asking for a second. Dr. Gouy seconds. Mr. Palazzo.
Yes, Chairman. This has to do with the north-south drainage project. What we have to do is we're going to end up requiring all this land to build that drainage canal back there off of Woodland Highway. This particular piece of property is owned by Mr. Hero. Mr. Hero has graciously agreed to donate that piece of property to us with just not the property, the servitude of the particular property, in order that the adjacent landowners can actually have some egress and ingress on their land. If we don't get this property, we're going to be looking at, subjected to a lot of expenses and costs and potentially some damages to some of the landowners. So that's the purpose of this donation.
And the ultimate project is for what now?
The north-south
Drainage canal?
drainage canal.
Okay. Any other comments or questions about this one? Mr. Turner, go ahead.
Mr. Palazzo, which developments are we trying to protect or help out?
It's my understanding everything along Woodland Highway.
Are you saying that the developers didn't put in the adequate drainage? We allowed, where was the failure? Why are we going back today? And we're gonna absorb the, so I'm assuming we're gonna accept the donation and then we're gonna do the work. I'm assuming that's in there. We're gonna get hit with that next. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, Mr. Turner, I didn't hear the question.
Well, let me rephrase it. Why are we doing this and not the developer? Why are we accepting those who developed in that area? The developers submitted plans to the parish that should have shown whether or not the drainage was adequate or inadequate. Why is it today that we're going to be absorbing this liability? Why are we taking ownership of this? And why wasn't this done by the developers?
Is this because it's an overall project, Leo?
It is. It's my understanding,
It's
not
not
that.
limited to just, because I kind of see Mr. Turner's point, but we're not just developing Mr. Hero's little piece of land and helping him out.
No, none of
This
this.
is for our overall project covering, Mr. Hinckley, a large piece of ground, am I mistaken?
But it's also not that I'm a drainage expert, but from what I was told, was that there's been having problems with regards to the drainage down there, actually getting water to the pumping stations down there. So that's one of the reasons that I was told that this project is necessary, or it's going to flood everything that's already there.
So
This is in your district, correct?
When you're going down Woodland Highway, leaving the parish, going towards Algiers, this is, you notice on the left there, pump station number 2 is on the left-hand side. So what Mr. Hero is doing is he's allowing for drainage servitude on the left-hand side right there. But what it does is this is draining pretty much half of all of the Bell Chase area, probably from Oakville all the way, because everything goes, the
On that
drainage goes
riverside.
all the way on the riverside. It's got nothing to do with a development or a subdivision or anything.
Well, I mean, he might develop or something, I'm sure, and I wouldn't blame you for doing it myself, but
I'm
this
sure
is a
one
bigger,
day
it's a
he
bigger
may.
scope than that,
But
correct?
this project right here and this donation's got nothing to do with it. This has got to do with the drainage work that's going on that deals with Dr. Guy's district, mine, and Kirk's district
So it
right now.
encompasses
And it
several
even
districts.
even encompasses district, it's 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Turner, you good?
I'm good.
Okay. Anyone else? Comments, questions? Hearing none, the machine's open on 6A3. And it passes 9-0. Six A five, an ordinance authorizing William Nungesser, Parish President, to execute an agreement for the releasing of Lot BB of the Duluth-Moravich Canal subdivision, Empire, Louisiana, to Quality Dockside LLC, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Mr. Edgecombe, your offering? I'll second. Mr. Edgecombe?
To Quality Dockside. Actually, I'll support on it.
And I'm just noting here, it's gonna authorize the extension, they have parish lease on this property already, Mr. Edgecombe? And it shows we're extending the leases by 20 years. The lessee has said has made permanent improvement in excess of $20,000 on the leased property. And the rent due is showing at $12,000 per year, is that correct? Okay.
Mr.
Turner?
Mr. Chairman, I'd ask that, I'd like to make an amendment to it, or ask Mr. Edgecombe to make an amendment that it be 10 years. The previous lease was for 10 years, that we just continue to do it in the 10-year intervals, as opposed to upping it to 20.
Mr. Turner has an amendment he's offering at 10 years instead of 20 years. Do I have a second?
Chairman, I think based on the amount of money that the individual put up, I think by statute it's 20 years.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Palazzo, my understanding is that we can renew it if they expend a certain amount of money. And so they've met that requirement, because we have another one where you have to spend $150,000, and if you spend that, then
Yeah, I think that's.
we
for-
can
that's-
automatically renew it. So,
That's for 40 years, if you pay over 100, 150,000. The amount of money that you put into the property gives you the right to, because you're investing the property, in the property, it gives you the opportunity then to get the longer lease.
right, you said the operative word is opportunity. It gives you the opportunity. We can extend it that long. I'm saying, as a matter of business, we should be extending these leases every 10 years so that we can reevaluate the market. Has this rate changed from the previous 10 years, or are we offering the property at the same value that we did 10 years ago? Does anyone know? Does anyone know what the previous price was?
I think it's the same price also.
Okay, and that's my point, right? And so as we go 20 years down, how do we know what the market is going to be? And so do we automatically just say, let them have it? That's why we do, I'm saying, reduce it to 10 years.
Honestly, right now, looking
there's
at
no
the flood
harm in that.
insurance rates and stuff that's going on, I'd grab the money now while we could, to be honest with you.
Oh, this isn't going to go away. Think about it. You think he's going to not accept the lease if we say 10 as opposed to 20? Or do you really?
But you've got an amendment on the table to reduce
The
it from
amendment on
20
the
years.
right. It's
20 years to
reduced
10
from 20 to
years.
10.
Do I have a second? This will be the third time I'm asking. Mr. Turner has an amendment for 20 years, to move from 20 years to 10 years. Do I have a second? Ms. Cooper, what we have on the table is an amendment by Mr. Turner to change the lease from 20 years to 10 years. And he's asking for a second. That's okay. The motion dies for lack of a second. Do we have any comment about the legislation itself?
Last question on it. Do we know what the previous price was?
I don't think it's increased at all, if that's what you're going at. Is that what it says, Anthony? Remain?
We good.
Okay, we good. Have any further questions? Machine's open. And it passes 8-1 with a no vote from District 6. Mr. Edgecombe, 6B, and a resolution establishing a membership of the Plaquemines Parish Tourist Commission Board, appointing the initial members to the board and otherwise to provide respect thereto. I think you want to offer with a change. And your change being?
We're going to remove, Mr. Renovich and fill in the blank with Mr. Renee Cross.
And with that, you offer?
Please,
I'll second. Mr. Edgecombe?
actually, last council meeting, I gave out the names of the members to the Tourist Commission Board, which Mr. Stan Mathis talked to each and every one of them. I think it's a good selection. It was a good selection. But we did make one change, and I would actually all support on it.
I think what we did is the state legislature created a tourism commission board, commission for Plaquemines Parish. Mr. Turner took the time to talk about another gentleman who may be interested in it. He came in and talked to me, and he felt that he would be able to devote the time to it. I appreciate Mr. Turner taking the time to ask the other person, who was actually a really good choice, I felt also. But at this time, looking at the people that's on here, it's a fairly good representation of our seafood people, restaurants, hotels. I'll say out loud, my wife's name was on this. While there was nothing illegal or improper about it, I just to avoid any sense of impropriety, I talked to her last night. We both felt to be in her best interest, and just in regard to the parish in general, there'd be no accusations or finger pointing toward anybody that she, excused herself from it. So that's the reason we did this change to Mr. Renee Cross. And with that, I'd like to support Mr. Edgecombe's legislation. Do you have any comment or question about this?
Yes, I do. Mr. Edgecombe, I'd like to ask if we could place a Byron Ancolard from the East Bank. I don't think we have any East Bank representation on here.
Let me explain something to you real quick. This Tourist Commission, the way I've understood the legislation that was passed, we can't just grab somebody just because they're from a district or just because they have expertise in anything. It has to be tourism related.
And that's why I'm selecting Mr. Ancolard.
And he's in the
because
tourist business in what way?
Mr. Ancolard is dealing with the, he was president of the Oyster Association.
How's that tourism?
We're talking moving seafood, the $2 million that we got from BP to support the seafood industry. You're the one who mentioned, Mr. Marinovich, that we have seafood on here. I'm just following your lead. You know, you're the one who said seafood, and we don't have any representation from the East Bank.
We're talking about tourism industry. That's what this is. It's not necessarily moving wholesale seafood.
I'll just ask Mr. Edgecombe. Mr. Edgecombe, would you be willing to replace someone with Mr. Ancolard? That's your call. I'm making a request. That's a yes or no. I'd appreciate your consideration.
I would like to leave it as I read at this meeting. Ms. Jones Strohmeyer, Renee Cross, Chad Breland, Shane Mayfield, Sal, Mr. Foster, and Mr. Mike.
Got a question.
Ms. Cooper?
Okay, let's go down the line. Joan Strohmeyer, hotel, motel owner. Renee Cross, recreation marina owner. Chad Breland,
Fishing guide,
fishing guide. Shane Mayfield,
fishing guide.
Sal St. Philip,
Salvo's correct.
a what?
Restaurant owner.
Foster Capel, Woodlawn Plantation. Mike.
He runs the Mike Hotel.
Okay, so we have, and I agree with Burkhart, we have 2 or 3 recreational fishing guides on here. Tourism. Seafood industry also does bring in people to this parish. The commercial fishing industry also. And I'm gonna have to agree with Burkhart on this one.
Mr. Edgecombe, let me
Mr.
ask you a
Cooper,
question.
I'll ask you one more.
How did they go about
first,
selecting the individual to
Stan
participate?
Mathis put forward the names to us.
Stan Mathis.
I don't know.
Gentlemen,
Well, you know, Mr. Byron Ancolard is very much involved with the seafood industry, not just here, but throughout this country, for them concerned, because I know this guy has gone all the way over to Poland and different places to represent the seafood industry. So why can't he be considered as one of the people, you know?
The thing is, Mr. Griffin, the way this was explained to me, I have nothing against Mr. Ancolard. The thing that was explained to me was, because we had other names, plenty of other names that we discussed.
Mr. Mayor?
It's that the people are not wholesale, it's not wholesale dealers or industry dealers of wholesale seafood or just fishermen. Nothing against them, because most of my friends do this for a living. It's people who run retail type concessions or outlets for tourism, strictly tourism. It's not for wholesale oysters or retailing shrimp off of a boat or something like that. That's not what this is for. And I don't think the state, the way to set up this commission is going to allow those people to stand on the board like that. That's the way this has been set up.
You know, I understand all that, but I still have a problem. You know, we're talking about Plaquemines Parish. We're not just talking about the West Bank. So if we had to look at somebody for tourism, I think we still need to include at least one person from the East Bank. 'Cause I know there's somebody on the East Bank qualified for that position, you know, whether we like it or not. We need to go throughout this whole parish and look at one person from the East Bank to be put on that committee.
No, I'm gonna let you go say what you're gonna say. I'm gonna let everybody talk.
Okay, on line 7, the second whereas says, whereas as there is no local or special law enacted by the state legislature for the makeup of the governing board for the commission, LSA RS 33-457, 457-4F requires the parish council to appoint 7 persons to the governing board from the list of nominees submitted by the council by private nonprofit groups that have an interest in one or more aspects of the tourism industry.
But I mean, I'm not calling you out, I'm just asking what you.
No, I know, but the seafood industry, we had the guys from the Deadliest Catch come down here, we've had fundraisers, we've had local people that came to and And our economic development, Stan, is the one who does all this for us.
Do you want to make an amendment here? What do you want to do?
But let's pass over it right now.
You want to pass over, or do you want to defer it? Let's pass over for right now, y'all. 6C, Mr. Edgecombe? 6C will be deferred. Six D, we was gonna wait on that, Mr. Griffin, and was gonna look at the other one. 6D is deferred, correct?
Yeah,
It's
right.
a start-up one.
Yeah.
6E, Mr. Griffin?
Deferred.
6E is deferred. 6F, Mr. Griffin, deferred.
No, sir, we're gonna move with that one.
A resolution appointing 3 individuals to serve on the board of directors of the Port Eads Fishing Refuge and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Mr. Griffin, if you could give us the term limits and the names.
Okay, I'll throw off, but the name's gonna be Darrell Brubeck. In the first line, 5-year term. Robert Perez.
Who?
Robert Perez on the second line, 5-year term. And Ken Mayfield, 5-year term.
And with that, you're offering, Mr. Griffin?
Yes, sir.
Do we have a second? Seconded by Dr. Gouy. Mr. Griffin?
I so offer just like it is.
I'm gonna say something right now. I don't want to besmirch any of these gentlemen, but I've got 2 names I'm looking at. That these are people that own camps on the property that belongs to the parish, and I have a little issue with that.
Sounds
The
like a
Perez's don't have a
conflict.
camp down there? The Perez family doesn't own a camp down there. Are there any Perez camps down there? Thank you. So we have the Perez, we have Perez with camps, the Boobrigs with the camp, which is not besmirching in any way at all. I think highly, I know Mr. Darrell many, many years. But here we are trying to set up somebody to set up the Port Eads Refuge, and it's gonna be a deal of who's gonna be my next door neighbor, and they get to select their neighbors, and we're funding this, and I have a problem with that. Any comments or questions?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Ms. Turner.
Go ahead, Mr. Turner.
I'll pass.
Go ahead, Mr. Turner. What we're gonna do, we're gonna take this Ken Mayfield, take his name off and submit Byron Ecolaw's name on it. That's the third name. Personally speaking, I don't know none of these people. The only people I know here is Byron Ecolaw.
Mr., to the group, this organization has not been formed yet, is that correct?
That's correct.
And so, I don't think it's a legal body, a legal organization, and so I don't see the need for us to make any appointments at this time, being that the organization doesn't exist. Am I missing something, Mr. Rathburn? I see you grabbing the mic. Am I missing?
It's kind of a chicken-egg thing, and I understand your point, but in order to form the organization, it's going to make it much more efficient when I am doing so to know who to plug the names in order to have it formed. I mean, you're going to have an organizer of the corporation, the not-for-profit corporation. You're going to have to name some folks, and you might as well just name the people so that I'll know who will be on the board of directors.
But the structure is more important than the names at this time, when the structure of the organization hasn't even been created yet. I'm good.
The structure, the structure of the organization will simply be a not-for-profit organization. So I guess what I would state to you that typically what you do is you know who you're going to be forming or placing into these positions and go ahead and prepare the articles of organization at that point.
I mean, if you prepare articles of incorporation, you need to have some people name in there, right?
Typically, you would have that. That's
So
that's,
these names would be eligible to be submitted on a corporation.
sir.
These names would be eligible to be submitted on articles of incorporation
Sure.
to organize something.
Right.
Wait, hold on. And we don't know the structure at this time. We don't know what the organization is gonna look like. Does this in any way give us does this give us an automatic approval once you decide on the structure of the organization?
I'm
Is there
taking my
something
direction
missing
from
here?
the council has passed an ordinance to create this. I will be taking my instructions from the council before it gets filed with the Secretary of State or anyone else as far as the structure of the corporation.
Wait, let me stop you right there. Did we pass something approving a board?
No, that's the point I'm making, that we're naming a board, but we did pass something approving the creation of the not-for-profit corporation.
I don't think that we did we?
Oh, yes, you did.
Well, then we need to hold off until we see that, so we know, because if we don't, right, then once we plug these names in, then you've got the green light just to go.
Well, wait, the council has approved the creation, it was a two-part ordinance. One was to try to get a for-profit bids to take over the management and operations of Port Eads. That didn't happen, as we all know, no bids came in. The second part of the ordinance says, if that doesn't happen, that a not-for-profit corporation will be formed with, you fill in the blank members. And, I mean, I guess what I would say is, I'm not sure what the difficulty in naming members is, since the form of the corporation will be subject to council approval. It won't get filed without the council saying that's the form it's going to take.
So if we set the RFP process, RFQ process, whatever, too high, then we automatically got the not-for-profit, correct?
Mr. Marinovich, that's
That's
kind
just-
of above my pay grade on that one.
It's not above mine.
All I'll say is that there was an ordinance passed, and pursuant to the ordinance,
I
since
understand
no
what's going on
bids.
here.
Yes, sir.
Let me
I
just
will
ask one
stop.
question. Do we have any, just as a general question, and I'm not trying to besmirch anyone's name here because there's nobody's name here that I would object to. I know these gentlemen. And I can speak highly of them. Only thing I'm asking is that some of these people have an interest in camps next to or adjacent to the marina or on the marina property. Is that a problem legally?
That's the first I've heard of it, so I don't want to give you a knee-jerk reaction. I don't know any of these people. I certainly didn't suggest any of these names. That's the first I'm hearing of it, so I don't want to give you a uninformed opinion on that right now. I don't know the answer.
I'll tell you how the three names got there. Quit beating around the bush. Got a letter from Mr. Nungesser, he put 5 names. This thing got introduced blank. It sat. I called Mr. Bubrig, because I know he has a vested interest to make that thing work. The only comment I got, he says, I will do it unless there is a conflict of interest of any of the board members in the operation of their camp. If there is any, I will withdraw my name. I said, today, as far as I know, there's no such conflict of interest. He said, I would be more than happy to serve. So last week, I said, you got any names? No, I said, and I sent a letter to everyone recommending Mr. Bubry, and we still had 2 blanks. So I went to the list that the only other recommendation we had, and I saw a conflict, a conflict, a conflict. And the other 2 names, I saw no conflict. So I recommended to Mr. Griffin, look, I think that we ought to put this on the table and let it go. If somebody else has got another name, speak up. Otherwise, let's move on, defer it, throw it out the window. I really don't care. But we're sitting here talking about this thing over and over, and we're not getting anywhere.
All I'm asking is,
Let's
if they
get
have an
somewhere.
interest in property next door or on the property we have, is it improper or not? That's all I'm asking you.
And the question that
And Leo, you can welcome
I
the
mean,
answers too.
my legal position is no, it's not a conflict. In fact, I would agree with Dr. Gui, it's an advantage. And it's typical with homeowners, you know, when you get a board in the homeowners association, most of those people, if not all of people, are property owners. And their interest is designed to protect the property, so I think it would be an advantage. I don't see it as a conflict.
Mr. Chairman, I think Mr. Griffin before we move on this legislation, we need to know we need to see the structure of the organization. If it's a matter of the chicken or the egg, well, let's get the structure first, and let's agree on the structure.
But the structure is a nonprofit organization. So it's my appreciation. It's already drafted. We're just waiting for the names to implement. That's the structure.
Is it already drafted?
It speaks
Mr.
for
Redfern?
itself.
Is it already drafted?
Yes, sir, a draft has been made of the corporation.
And that's not attached.
I'm sorry?
That's not attached to this.
No, because it is not up for approval right now. I mean,
You want to call a question on it? Dr. Dewey? PV, I'm sorry, you want to call a question?
Wait up.
Mr. Arthur, go ahead.
The public ought to know, this is nothing but a recreational playground for the rich at the expense of the people.
It's exactly what it is.
Be destroyed, man. Man, you guys ought to be shaming yourself, all of you.
That's exactly what this has been. It's exactly what it's been through the years. Anyone else?
No, I want to make a comment. You know, Arthur, I don't say much when you stand at the microphone. But I'm gonna quote Mr. Gui. We've beat this thing, we tried one way, we're trying another way. You don't like this one, what's your suggestion?
Give it back.
To
Give
who?
it back to where it belongs to in the beginning.
who's
We had a
that?
discussion a while ago, it belongs to the federal government. Am I right or am I wrong? Okay.
My suggestion is put it up for sale.
Yeah, hey, what else? Let somebody else have it. Why keep doing this at the expense of the people? The people isn't getting anything off of this. Nothing but for the guys who got money to go out to Port Eve and have fun. Come on, man. Think about this. I agree with you. I agree with you, Mr. Marinovich. That's what you do with it. Sell it. Sell it. Hey, why are you keeping it like this then? What are you keeping it for?
I don't know, but I'll tell you, the selling suggestion came from me 6 months ago.
Well, because
Mr. Marinovich got the suggestion from me.
I don't see where we're benefiting from it. I really don't. Anybody can tell me where the public is benefiting from this, well, tell me.
Well, then why did
Tell
we
me.
spend $11 million of FEMA money if it didn't benefit this parish? Why did we make the federal government spend that money? And then
Might
why
have
did
something
we
to do with,
spend
might something to do with the
a
tens
couple
of
of
thousands of
million?
dollars in campaign donations that were given by the people who did the project.
And why did we spend a couple of million of parish money on it?
Well, sell it. Sell it. Why keep it here? Why keep it there? It's not doing no good for the people. What good is it? You guys tussle with this over years.
Call a question, Mr. Griffin?
But nobody can figure out what to do with it. Sell it.
We'll sell it next year.
He's calling a question. Mr. Griffin, you want to call a question? Okay, machine's open. And the item passes 7-2 with 2 no votes from District 6 and District 8. Mr. Hinckley, 6G. They said they would, Angie calls me when to defer till we get somebody here to explain it.
Ryan, do you know anything about this next? It's the communications. Jeff, let's defer.
We're gonna defer 6G. She called me this morning, said she could try to.
Yeah, we're gonna defer. We'll
let
Jeff.
She said she could try to get some stuff for us for next week. No, I got it taken care of already. 6H, we're gonna defer at this time or withdraw?
6H, I'm withdrawing.
6H will be withdrawn. Thank you, Mr. Hinckley. 6I. 6I be withdrawn. 6J will be deferred. 6K will be deferred. Mr. Griffin, 6L.
We're gonna move.
An ordinance to amend the general fund 2013 operating expenditure budget, maintenance departments, line item maintenance, building and grounds, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Mr. Griffin, your offering.
Offer with changes.
We noted a change on line 5 from 40,000 to 60,000. On line 5, on line 10 from 40,000 to 60,000, and on line 15 from 40,000 to 60,000. With that, you're offering, Mr. Griffin?
Offer.
Do we have a second? Second by Dr. Gouy. Mr. Griffin?
At this time, I yield to Mr. Byron Williams.
Yes, Council, this is in regards to the maintenance department where there was FEMA funds that were not obligated yet, or PWs that were not obligated, and there was some work that needed to be done. The Port Suffolk Government Building being one building in particular, and that was one of the courthouses, the temporary courthouse we had to do some work in. So between now and the end of the year, this will help us get through the year and replenish that budget for work that we have done, hoping that the PW does get obligated and we get our monies back to put back into these accounts.
Anyone else have any comment or question about this matter?
Question. At the last council meeting, we approved $30 million for Isaac, bringing the total up to $98 million. And you're saying the Port Suffolk Government Building was not included?
No, I was saying it was one of the buildings that we had a PW that was written for Isaac. I just named that one because it's one of our major government buildings, being that we had a shortfall because the PW was not obligated yet. There's some work from Isaac that has not been obligated in the buildings department, so the money was pulled out of maintenance department to get that work done to make sure that these facilities are operable.
But none of that was the Port Suffolk Government Building, was it? Because I'm assuming everything Port Suffolk Government Building was, you know, it was
Everything was not obligated at Port Suffolk Government Building, no, sir. I have the PWs from All South, not everything was obligated for Port Suffolk Government Building.
And the work that was done, let me just ask you this, because I can tell you in my office, I don't know about Ms. Audrey's office, but the work that was done will still have the same effect. The walls are messed up, is what I'm getting at.
Yes.
And so,
Any other comment or question about this matter?
I'm good with it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Turner. Okay, machine's open on 6L. And the item passes 9-0. 6M. An ordinance appropriating a sum of $50,000 to grant to the Port East Fishing Refuge and $50,000 for professional services, security, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Mr. Griffin, your offering. Do
Offer.
you have a second? Second by Dr. Gouy. Mr. Griffin?
I'm ask Mr. Leo to give us a little bit more better explanation about the security system.
We're going to be getting the keys in about 2 weeks. Couvillon's finished there. There is no, at this particular time, the place will be empty. The only time that the place was empty was when Couvillon took a vacation for a day and the place was vandalized. It is a $15 million project.
How convenient.
And if the council decides to sell it, you'd like to sell it as a whole project, not something that's halfway burnt down or vandalized. So in the interim, we believe that the $50,000 is needed for some camera equipment and for some security. The other $50,000 as part of the ordinance was designed for the upstart costs as the board becomes appointed.
Yes, Shepard, you do this. We need to reintroduce it. Any other comment or question about this matter? Hearing none, the machine is open. The item passes 8-1 with a no vote from District 8. That was 6M, correct? Kurt, 6N? 6N will be withdrawn. An ordinance authorizing, directing the parish president, William Billy Nungesser, to prepare and advertise a request for qualifications for professional service to scan, create a computerized database, and maintain backup storage of all parish council legislation and files in the council secretary's office, and otherwise provide respect thereto. Your offering?
Offer is read.
Second by Dr. Gui. Mr. Lapine?
This is to go out for qualifications to get a company to back up all our files on scan. This is long overdue. I think Ms. Toops could add something to it. Where do we go back to, Kim, that we need to catch up?
On the council secretary office computers, the legislation only goes back to 1999. Anything prior to that are in minute books that have no index, so it would be easier just to put it in the computer, scan it, and do a search that way.
Okay, so I think,
How long will it, what's the time frame we think that we're gonna need the individual for? Any idea? Have you given that any thought? The reason I'm saying that, because when we did it with civil service, it was turning into a lifelong position, and so do we, any idea?
This is just gonna bring us up to date, and then after that.
Okay, I'm good.
Yeah, excuse me, it's for a contract. It's not hiring a person. And we'll get to look at the bids when they come in.
Any other comment or question about this matter? Machine's open on 6O. The item passes 9-0. 6P will be withdrawn. Thank you, Mr. Lapine. 6Q, an ordinance authorizing the parish president, William Billy Nungesser, to enter into and execute a cooperative endeavor agreement between Plaquemines Parish Government and the State of Louisiana Office of Facility Planning and Control, and to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan for Belle Chase Parks Planning and Construction Project, and otherwise provide respect thereto. Mr. Lapine, your offering?
offer is read.
I'll second. Mr. Lapine?
This is accepting a grant from the state. We secured some state money. I talked to Mr. Puckett. He's not here today, but he could explain it a little bit better.
I read it looks like $100,000 we're receiving from the state. and we have to
100,000,
match
and
it
our
with
portion is
33,000.
33,000.
Okay, and y'all, this is gonna go to maybe what, Cypress Park or something like
This
that?
is gonna be a park in District 3, well, more of a walking track, as the planning stages now.
And it'll be a total of $133,000, our match money being the $33,000.
Correct.
Okay. Any other comment or question about this matter? Yeah, Mr. Arthur?
You already know what I'm asking. Yeah. Well, your district need goes too. Okay, all right, I'm gonna hold you down to it now.
Okay.
Better get that man a basketball goal. Any other comment or question? Hearing none, the machine's open on 6Q. The ordinance passes 9-0. 6-0. A resolution appointing Christopher Holder as a member of the Plaquemines Parish Firefighter Civil Service Commission to fill the unexpired term of Joseph Peterson, who resigned, and otherwise provide respect thereto. Dr. Gui, you're offering?
I'll offer.
I'll second. Dr. Gui?
The next three resolutions all pertain to the Plaquemines Parish Firefighter Civil Service Commission. As the terms expire, of course, someone has to fill those terms, and each of those positions, the person is nominated by a respective group. The first one, 6R, appoints Mr. Christopher Holder as a member of the Firefighter Commission. He is filling the unexpired term of Mr. Joseph Peterson, who has resigned. This particular nomination was made by the firefighters.
Thank you, Dr. Gui. Any other comment or question about this matter? Hearing none, the machine's open on 6R. The resolution passes 8-0. Move to 6S, a resolution appointing Melvin Kiff as a member of the Plaquemines Parish Firefighter Civil Service Commission and otherwise provide respect thereto. Dr. Gouy, your offering?
I'll offer.
I'll second. Dr. Gouy?
One thing I missed, Kim, there's a blank as to the term. I think it's just general understanding it would be today, once it's approved.
You remove my second?
Nah, once it's approved. So
No.
that would be, just fill it in, 9/26.
Show today's date,
Yeah,
Dr. Gouy?
Yeah, just today's date on all of these. This resolution is to appoint Mr. Melvin Kiff. He was nominated by the Plaquemines Parish Fire Department Presidents and Chiefs Association.
Thank you, Dr. Gouy. Do we have any comment or question about this one?
I don't know any of these guys. But there's no diversity here. I don't see any diversity. There should be some diversity here. You know, come on. We got different people. Not all one people live in Plaquemines Parish here. And everybody have fires.
Mr. Kiff's been a Plaquemines
I don't
resident.
care if it's Mr. Kipp, I don't care if it's Arthur Henry. It should have diversity. It should have diversity. You know, we have commissions, and I get tired of seeing all this all the time. But man, we need to start reflecting the community when we're doing commissions, we're doing boards. We got to stop doing this where, I'm going to be straight up with you, everything is lily white. We don't live in a lily white society, I'm sorry. We got to start having some diversity here, man. Man, come on, how you think other people feel?
Any other comment or question? Hearing none, the machine's open. And it passes 8-0, and Mr. Turner said he was present, not voting. Move to 6T, a resolution reappointing Alan Hero as a member of the Plaquemines Parish Firefighter Civil Service Commission, otherwise provide respect thereto. Dr. Gouy, you offering?
I offer.
I'll second. Dr. Gouy?
Okay, and I'll repeat that these appointments are made by law. They are made to the Plaquemines Parish Firefighter Civil Service Commission, and the recommendations come from bodies. The first one was from firefighters themselves. They want someone to represent them in their civil service matters. The next was the Firefighters Chief and Presidents Association. They chose someone to represent them in their matters. This last one is an appointment that is made by Our Lady of Holy Cross. And the firefighters chose out of that selection to go with Mr. Alan Hero because he is presently on that commission. And as a council member who is not a firefighter, I would follow the guide of those people who are out there fighting fires every day to protect our lives and protect our property. And if they choose to nominate someone who feels it's in their best interest, I support that.
Thank you, Dr. Gouy. Anyone else have a comment or question?
I do, Mr. Chairman. If I'm reading this correctly, Mr. Hero is being renewed. He was already on the board, is that correct?
It says renominating.
Okay, so I am reading it correctly. And
Reappointing.
Mr. Scandura,
Stand corrected.
has he served on the board also?
No, he doesn't.
Well, then I would ask that that we go with Mr. Scandura, give someone else an opportunity to serve. If not, if we take the position that we're not gonna change the people out, then you get into this group think, and then nothing will ever change. If they're representing the people.
Mr. Turner, you offer an amendment?
I was mentioning that if Mr. Gouy isn't willing to make an amendment, then I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'm going with what the firefighters asked me to do.
which is Mr. Hero, correct? Just to clarify things.
I didn't choose them.
When I was speaking, I wasn't speaking just to the council, speaking to the Firemen Association and all of them. Hey, wherever it starts at, man, it goes for all of them, all of them. We are here like everyone else.
Any other comment or question? Hearing none, the machine's open on when it's not, it's on 6T. And it passes 8-1 with a no vote from District 6. I'm gonna revert back to introductions for just a moment. Ms. Hinckley, do you have something for us, sir?
An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan in order to fund the renovation of parish-owned property, which will provide facilities and storage areas for the Plaquemines Parish Performing and Visual Arts Program project, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of lots 1 and 2, Woodland subdivision, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, into lots 1A, 2, and 2A, Woodland division. Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, shown on the plans and plat of survey by Dufresne Surveying and Engineering, Incorporated, April 9, 2013. The owner having fulfilled all of the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the Parish of Plaquemines without cost to Plaquemines Parish government or the Parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the General Fund 2013 operating expenditure budget, Coroner Department, various line items, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan for the Railroad Crossings Upgrade Project, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
I think we went through these real quick, if you want to.
That's all, Mr. Chair.
Okay. I have two. One for Mr. Edgecombe, a resolution establishing a membership of the Plaquemines Parish Tourist Commission Board, appointing the initial members of the board, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. I have an additional one for myself. An ordinance terminating the state of emergency declared by Parish President William Billy Nungas on August 26, 2012, relative to Hurricane Isaac, authorizing and directing the council secretary to file this ordinance with the Plaquemines Parish Clerk of Court and State Emergency Preparedness Office, and otherwise provide respect thereto. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna have to ask, this is something we need to get done, gentlemen, as a suspension of the rules for, it's a resolution appointing blank as a member of the Plaquemines Parish Civil Service Commission, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. I need a second for the suspension. Dr. Gouy. What this is, a resolution appointing, we have 3 people recommended to us by LSU to serve on the board. What? Oh, I'm sorry, y'all. We need to vote on the suspension.
Mr. Chairman, who are the names? What's the name?
Let's vote on the suspension first, and we can discuss it.
Well, you need that to know, I need to know that whether or not I'm going to support the suspension.
The names are Carol Pons, Emile Lapointe, and Jody Gilbo. Do what? I'm confused. What are y'all asking me?
Suspension.
This is for the suspension, y'all. Mr. Hinckley? Suspension fails. I don't know what happens now because we're a month behind on this already. I don't know what to tell you. What do we, because Burkle voted no. I don't know what to tell you to do. I'm ready to go to.
V is withdrawn.
6V is withdrawn.
W is
6W is deferred. 6X. 6X deferred. 6Y deferred. 6Z, I was asked to defer that one. 6AA, are we deferring that one? That was Morris and Clyde. And the resolution authorizing Plaquemines Parish Government to settle and compromise Morris and Clyde's workers' compensation claim number 01D44C033883 and otherwise provide respect thereto. I'll offer and ask for a second. Second by Mr. Griffin. This is something we discussed earlier. It was a gentleman that was hurt working for the parish, and he's wanting to settle his compensation claim. I think it's something Mr. Palazzo is working on. I think they're looking at the sum of maybe $80,000 that it says on the resolution here.
That's correct.
Thank you, Mr. Palazzo. This would somewhat would probably relieve the parish of some further monies, and also probably relieve Mr. Anclad of some of his further agonies and maybe let him go on with his life, correct?
This is, Mr. Angelard spoke with me. He asked specifically that he would like to have $80,000 to settle this claim. After we broke it down and we looked at the value of the claim, we feel that this is a just and fair amount for what he had.
Thank you, Mr. Palazzo. Any comment or question? $80,000.
You say it's been adjusted.
Said a just and fair amount, and that's what he wanted. He asked me if I would go to the council and request that amount of money. I of course, doing my due diligence, I checked it out to make sure that was a fair amount of money, and I presented what he would like to the council, and the council graciously agreed to it.
Okay, I thought you loaded, okay.
Any other comment or question? Hearing none, the machine's open on 6AA. And it passes 9-0. 6BB, an ordinance to amend the general fund. Do we want to go there yet, Leo? Or you want to wait till negotiations are complete?
We can pass it.
Pass over it or pass it?
We'll pass it. Defer it.
Defer it, thank you. An ordinance to amend the general fund 2013 operating expenditure budget, otherwise provide respect thereto. I'll offer and ask for a second. Do I have a second? This is 6CC. I'm sorry. I'm waiting on a second. Second, Dr. Gouy. What this is, ladies and gentlemen, is the sheriff sent us all out a letter just recently looking for approximately $70,000. He was doing some grass cutting and stuff at some of the churches and nonprofits, cemeteries in particular. The equipment was turned in. I talked to Orvin Tenson with the president on this side, Mr. Byron Williams and Corey Bowie. The equipment was in pretty bad shape, I understand. I don't know what's actually been done with it, but the equipment has been collected back, and it's auctioned off, you saying? Okay, and this is something I think that Sheriff Wooten had originally originated this program. Sheriff Hingle did this, and Sheriff Greco's looking to do the same thing. And we had even discussed possibly even having the program grow somewhat. But in order to get started, this would be 4 0-turn, 60-inch deck diesel mowers and 10 21-inch high wheel push mowers for the trustees to go out and cut a little grass around the cemeteries and some of the churches, which some of them could really use the help. So I would ask you to support this. Is for $70,000. Do we have some comment or question about it? Wait,
Hey,
you
I
want to
got-
say something? Go ahead, Mr. Henry.
Oh, I just want to know, though, since the parish purchasing this equipment here, do the sheriff have a right to deny any church grass not to be cut? I'm asking because I need to know that. It's parish fund purchasing this equipment here.
Mr. Henry, this is the best I can tell you to my knowledge, 'cause I know where you're going with this.
Well,
'Cause
I
there's
know.
some, well, wait, let me answer now. If you're gonna ask a question, I'll try to
Some
answer it for
grasses he
you.
don't want to cut. I don't think that's fair.
What's he saying? What'd you
Some
say?
grasses he don't want to cut, that's not fair.
Okay. What I'm understanding under the law has been changed somewhat to where that this has to be a 501(c). I'm not really quite sure about that. Something, you know something about this?
Yes, I'm the past, my name's Mitch Cote. I live in Belle Chase. I'm the past commander for the Plaquemines Parish VFW, and I'm also the past commander for the American Legion in Belle Chase. Our post used to get our grass cut for nothing from the parish, from the sheriff's department. But as you had stated, there's a law that come down. If you want your grass cut and you're a nonprofit organization, you have to show your paperwork. You have to give it to them. That way they can justify it on their end of doing the service for us. So, yes, you're right. But if your church has not put the paperwork in, it won't get cut.
How that law apply to the local government supplying the equipment?
It's a community service, and if they're doing it for a nonprofit, they can probably take it off on their.
I think what they're trying to get at, Mr. Henry, I think what the deal is this, is that they have to prove that
Right.
they're a nonprofit. Because
Yeah.
I might say the Black Velvet's a nonprofit, come cut my grass, and
Yeah.
obviously it's not.
The church is obvious.
No. I think, and I agree with you, it should be
And
obvious.
all churches don't have 501(c) status.
All you have to do is show your 7-2 number.
They don't even have that, all churches. But you know, it's a church.
It's state law, Mr. Henry, it's state law is what I'm trying to explain to you.
You have to have that paperwork.
Well, that the sheriff buy his own equipment.
Okay, any other comment or question? Machine's open on 6CC. Dr. Gooey. And Anthony.
Yeah, just one thing to consider. I would like to add this language as an amendment because.
Play the machine.
Wait, are we back on that?
We haven't voted, he still wants to add some. Go ahead.
It's come to my attention that we do not have a cooperative endeavor agreement with the sheriff's office regarding this. And I think it would be in everyone's best interest, the sheriff's and the Plaquemines Parish government, to do that. So I would like to offer this amendment. We would change on line 28 where it says section 2, we change that to section 3. And we would add section 2, whereas the council hereby directs the parish attorney's office to develop and enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement for this service.
Scott, did you have something you wanted to add, sir?
Yes, can y'all explain to us who's gonna be responsible for the repairs of any of this equipment? Because that's something we're gonna need to know whose budget to pull it out of and so forth. Because in the past, when they had it, they would bring it to our departments and we'd have to pull it out of our departments to pay for the repairs and so forth.
I would say that
So
as
if we
part
can
of
put
the
that in-
CEA, that you would get with the attorney's office and express those concerns so that in the CEA, those things can be worked out. And I would think that without being able to come up with that, Mr. Palazzo and Mr. Ortega, that you come back to the council and let us know. The question I have is if we authorize the purchase and then we can't come to some agreement, which I really doubt, we can't come to some agreement with the sheriff's office on the CEA, what do we do with the equipment? So should we delay the purchase of the equipment until we get with the sheriff and work out the details? Okay, well, why don't we just defer this? And,
Deferred.
Yeah,
It's
and then
deferred.
do you need a direction from us to work out a CEA?
No, I have plans on meeting with Freddie Yorsch, their attorney, on specifically dealing with some of the costs that we have to bear.
Yeah, that'll be good. Yeah, that'll be good.
6E, an ordinance to approve the amended pay plan and classification schedule adopted by the Civil Service Commission August 20th, 2013, to create, we did this? finish interrupting me? Pops? EE. I'm just old. An ordinance to approve the amended pay plan and classification schedule adopted by the Civil Service Commission August 20, 2013, to create the new classifications of comptroller and otherwise to provide respect thereto. I'll offer and ask for a second. Second by Dr. Gui. Dr. Gui could probably give us some more information on this. It's a minimum salary of $55,598, and this is something we're gonna be taking up with the port later on, sir?
Oh, Mr. John, yeah, the position, of course, is like any other position. It would have to go through the process of advertising. But, John, I'll let you take it.
John Pennison, Deputy Director of Plaquemines Parish, Plaquemines Port Harbor Terminal District. Yeah, I received instructions from our Executive Director to approach the Civil Service Board to ask them to create the position of comptroller. With the separation of the port, the workload in the accounting department was much more than we ever anticipated. We do have a director of administration in position, but so much of her time is spent on the human resources aspect of the business that she can't devote the time we feel is necessary to the accounting functions. Therefore, we approached the Civil Service Board and asked them to create the position of comptroller, and that's where we stand today. Appreciate your support.
Thank you, Mr. John. Anyone else? Machine's open on 6EE. Any ordinance passes 9-0. Move to 6FF, which we're going to defer at this time. Counselor? 6FF will be deferred? Yes. 6FF be deferred. 6GG, are we going to defer at this time? Yes. 6GG will be deferred at this time. 6HH, Mr. Edgecombe? Thank you, sir. Ms. Cooper, 6II. Bluefield Venice Center. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan for the remediation repairs, Bluefield Venice Community Center project, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Ms. Cooper, you're offering?
I'll offer as is.
I'll second. Ms. Cooper?
From what I'm being told, maybe, Leo can explain more, but I think this is needed for like mold samples and different, things that we need for this mitigation of this building.
Is that correct, Leo? We're in the Bluefield Community Center. We're looking at mold remediation type things, and this is money we'll probably be able to recoup from any damages that may be awarded to us from the guilty parties.
Yes, we got
Wanna put it that way?
a very large lawsuit, in-depth lawsuit, multiple defendants. So that's where we're
But
at.
this would help get the lawsuit started, maybe
Yes.
get Ms. Small into her building?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other comment or question about this? Huh? Yeah, before her term's over, maybe. Keith? And it passes 9-0. The last thing we have on the agenda that I'm seeing right now is 6JJ, an ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements. Withdrawn? Mr. Turner, any updates, public comments for Hurricane Isaac?
Nothing on Isaac.
District 6?
District 6 update. There's a meeting that's taking place at the Bell Chase Library, which is Monday, concerning OCD funds. Ms. Angel, you have any information on it? Anything other than that? Okay,
Mr. Turner,
that's-
can I ask a simple question?
Yeah, sure.
Is it possible for us, it seems a little odd to me to be holding a meeting in regard to hurricane funds in Bell Chase Auditorium when they have no damage at Bell Chase. I'm just curious to why this is not being done either on the east bank and probably a southern location, maybe Port Sulphur, Beers, or Venice. Do you know?
Mr. Chairman, you are 100% correct, and Mr. Puckett was the one who worked out those arrangements with the state. I definitely was not in favor of it being in the Belle Chase area, but because of that, here's what's happening. The state has to submit a plan to HUD November 1st. And during that time, prior to that, there has to be 2 public hearings. Those hearings should have been somewhere on the southern end and one on the east bank. But that's where we are with it. It's a bad night, Monday Night Football. You figure low attendance, but we need to show up. This is a very, very important meeting concerning the Isaac funds, and we need the people there. It's major.
Thank
So
you,
that-
Mr. Turner.
And that's-
Citrus Land's gonna do that today, are we?
No, I'm good.
Okay. And, Mr. Griffin, you have something here about Liberty Lane?
Mr. Chairman,
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Chairman, under 6, Mr. Lawrence.
Warren Lawrence, Myrtle Grove. I've just questioned, I thought the discussion was going to go with this Citrus Land property, and I don't know if that is the land where they are currently ready to start a borrow pit by Ironton and Myrtle Grove that they sold. And my only question was going to be is they have already installed trailers, done work. I see no permit application posted at the site. I don't know what's the situation. Has the permit been issued? But they're going along, the equipment's there, and, you know, I've just questioned.
If any work has started, this is concerning, now, I don't know if you might be getting it mixed up.
I may have, yeah.
In that, there's a pump project that's going on in that area.
That's separate, that's separate.
Okay, well, if there's any activity, if there's any construction work going on concerning a borrow pit in that area, the administration needs to shut
There
that
is no
down.
if. I'm gonna back Mr. Lawrence up, and I know there's activity going on
Well,
right
then-
now,
well, okay.
illegally.
Well,
But that's par
now
for the
that we
course
know
of it.
that, right, I was not aware of that. If we know that there's an illegal activity going on, then Mr. Palazzo is our lead attorney. I feel it's incumbent upon you to get with the parish president and get this stopped. If we know that there's illegal activity taking place, unless Mr. Marinovich is mistaken, but at this stage, it's incumbent upon your office or the administration to at least verify one way or the other. And if that is going on, then that needs to stop immediately. If there's work going on without a permit, that needs to stop immediately. So just want the message to be loud and clear.
And my purpose is not to say it's illegal. If there is
If
a
they're operating
permit, it
without a
should be
permit-
posted.
If they're operating without a permit, it is illegal. They don't have authority, and that needs to stop, you know, that needs to stop immediately. Tomorrow, they need to be notified.
They are now converting the citrus land, which was a sand pit, now to a borrow pit. And they're using that mud currently to do the roadway back to the pumping station. It may be legal to do this.
Wait, hold on. Let's make sure we're talking about the same thing now. Are we
There's
talking
two-
about the borrow pit, or are we talking about the pump project?
No, what I'm saying is the pump project has been given out.
Right, I'm good on
But they
that.
are taking mud out of a site that is not permitted.
Then that needs to stop.
And there's 2 sites in question.
Where are they?
One is at the old citrus land sand pit that they're now making a borrow pit. Next to it, there is a trailer has moved in, they get the electrical service, they're coming in. They've already created the situation there. They put a fence in the front, they got a sign. I don't know, I see no permit placket that it's been permitted.
Is this right across from Ironton?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Do you know who it is?
Well, the sign on it says Philway.
Philway?
Philway,
That's
P-H-Y.
the same people that's requesting the permit that was deferred. So if these people are operating,
They are
if they're serving
operating.
as bad
There's no
actors
if.
today, then, number one, first thing first, they need to be stopped. Tomorrow, they need to be notified. Permit office, they need to be shut down immediately. Let's be clear on that. Is there any reason, Mr. Palazzo, why that should not happen?
Not that I'm aware of. I wasn't even aware this was going to just find.
And I'm just finding out also, appreciate, Mr. Marinovich confirmed that it is going on. And again, let's be
There are
clear.
construction trailers there. I'm having trouble right now trying to get
Okay.
a permit for a doggone construction trailer for the visitor center we're trying to build in the low end of the parish. Yet they have the same type trailers up here that they're working and they have a power hook to and sewage. And also, they're out there operating with heavy equipment, caterpillars, which can't be, that's one way to shut me down.
Lost the quorum.
They're operating heavy equipment, they're operating trailers, which Mr. Metcalf wouldn't approve, or the state fire marshal wouldn't approve. On our actual government sites that we have, they're out there digging right now and drying mud. I'm looking at heavy equipment move. Mr. Lawrence, am I wrong?
No, you're right.
They actually have a sign advertising already. And they have permits before us, which you may or may not grant, but as I pass back and forth every day, I can see this being done.
Well,
Please correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Lawrence.
No, that's all I'm asking. If it is permitted, please put the
It is
placard
not
up.
permitted.
Well, can I make a suggestion? If you notice some of that stuff, because I'm not running down that road on a daily basis, but if you see anything like that, and I would call the council members and also you, Mr. Lawrence, and any members of the community, if they would let us know. The legal department has now been tasked with overseeing permits and zoning. I'll get Mike Metcalf out there ASAP. We'll take pictures. We'll find out exactly what's going on.
Now you're officially notified.
Well,
I'm telling you right now, it's going on.
One thing to Mr. Leo is that, you know, and Ms. Cooper brought it up at the last meeting. The current law is now that you must have your placard posted for a permit before you start any construction work. We see it all over the parish. I never see placards put up. So you don't know if it's permitted or not. The work's going on.
I'm telling you, it's not permitted.
Okay, and you may be right, but, you know.
I am right. I'm
And
telling you, it's not permitted. They applied for a permit.
I may add one thing else while I'm up here, is that at the last one, when we talked about the variance given to Plaquemines Clay for the fence, I would encourage Mr. Metcalf, too, to go out there, and the fence on the second phase of the one that was permitted, find the fence.
No fence at all?
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence.
Mr. Chairman, on this issue, thank you, Mr. Lawrence, for that update. I was not aware of it. And Mr. Palazzo, now that you are aware of it, as Mr. Marinovich stated, now you've been notified. That equipment needs to be moved, that the permit, the electricity needs to be pulled. If somehow they got a permit, if somehow they got electricity, one, I'd like to know how they got electricity. Is this something that you signed off on? How did they get a permit for electricity without it coming before this council?
I'll find out for you, Mr. Turner.
All right, and we also want it stopped. We don't want to just, we want an answer, but tomorrow we want everything turned off.
Well, we'll do our best for that. With regards, with regards to these actual borrow pits, as you know, the borrow pit ordinance requires that we try to go out there with an engineer. I think that's the language. And I'm going to ask and suggest to the council that at some point in time an ordinance is written where that there is a specific engineering company that will go out there and verify all the requirements that are necessary, because we don't have the expertise in the permit department to do that.
That's a diversion. The issue at hand is they're
I heard
operating.
I heard what you said, Mr.
Okay,
Turner.
all right, I want us to be clear. So tomorrow power needs to be off. This is immediate. We're not negotiating with them. This needs to be stopped tomorrow. Ms.
Are we
Arthur,
gonna
anything
take
else
some
for
action?
District 6? That's all.
Are we gonna take some action on this?
I'm going to find out exactly who's running this operation, who it is. And
It's called Philway.
I wrote that down. Hopefully we have, according to, you're telling me that there's a permit application in process, so we should have some, if that's true.
We do have a permit. You look at the CLL, the limited partnership, or
Then,
whatever it is.
then we
the
should,
information should be on that
then we
permit
should have a
application.
contact
Yes, sir.
information. I'm going to have Mike Metcalf call them up, go out there and find out what's going on, take photographs, and document what's going on and see how we can cease
Mr.
whatever
Palazzo,
they're doing.
Mr. Palazzo, you know we have an application. That was on the executive session. So we have the information. I mean, we have what we need to act, and we need to act.
I'll get right back to you. I'm sorry, I need to, you good, Mr. Turner?
That's all I have, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
I have
And
one
thanks again,
introduction.
Mr. Lawrence.
I'm sorry, I have one introduction. I forgot about y'all. An ordinance to amend the Solid Waste Fund 2013 operating expenditure budget, Solid Waste District 1 Department, line item, professional services, disposal, trash, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Mr. Griffin, you have something about discussion regarding Liberty Lane, and we're gonna take it up, and we're gonna defer that today. The last issue we have is approval of September 12th, 2013 minutes. I'll offer and ask for a second. Seconded by Dr. Gui. Do we have any comment or question about the minutes? Hearing none, the machine's open. The minutes approved, 6-0. At this time, I'll entertain a motion. Motion adjourned, Mr. Griffin. Second by Dr. Gui. Machine is open on the adjournment. Stuart, this is yours, I stole. And we are adjourned at 15 minutes after 6, 5-0.